I call the Charlottesville City Council's meeting, September 15, 2025 meeting back to order. Brian, can you please read us out of closed session?
Yes. I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Second?
Second. Are we voting electronically? Okay. I know that you can't, Natalie.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay. So the motion passes 5-0. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you all so much. Are there any announcements?
Yes. Mark your calendars and sign up for the Loop de Ville, which is a hike, bike, or run that circumnavigates Charlottesville on our trail network. It's a blast. I did it last year and learned a bunch about the city that I have grown up in and lived here almost my whole life, about the trail connections and, oh, that came out there. Oh, that's where this is. It's a super fun day. If you want to do part of it but not all of it, that's also fine. There's aid stations with snacks and water along the way. And if you start out thinking you're going to do the whole thing and tap out, there's a shuttle that'll come pick you up and bring you back to the start. That is Saturday, September 27th, and you can find out more and sign up at loopdeville.org. It's free. The sign up is just a heads up to the organizers to anticipate how many people are going to be there. It's not something you have to pay for. And if you miss the sign up, still show up anyway. We'd love to have you.
Thank you. I have an announcement that the Charlottesville Office of Economic Development will be having a Next Gen Skill Trades Day where you can get information on trades such as HVAC, welders, carpenter, electrician. It's going to be October the 4th from 10 to 2 at PVCC. That's a Next Gen Trade Day at it's Saturday, October the 4th from 10 to 2 at PVCC. It's a great way to come out and get information on different trades, and these are the type of trades that can't be AI'd out, if that's a word. So it's really good, and I'm glad that the Chris in the Office of Economic Development is doing something like this, Sam. And they're going to have vendors, they're going to have food, music, and people there from the schools that will be teaching the courses. So it's a great event. So, other announcements?
One announcement, the 8th annual CYM Day observant, CYM being Close Your Mouth and Listen. Author, award winner, trailblazer Mr. Alexander presents the 8th annual CYM Day, first proclaimed by the City of Charlottesville on September 18th, 2018. The mission of this day with the CYM character is to stress the importance of closing your mouth and listening, which is the key to learning and living a healthy and productive life. CYM Day will be observed on Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. at the Barrett Learning Center, 410 Ridge Street. At 10 a.m., all citizens, wherever they may be, are encouraged to utilize the CYM activities and take a moment to relax, refresh, and renew themselves. You can contact Mr. Alexan at i-cnet or 434-202-0773.
Okay. Thank you. We have several proclamations that we're going to have read today, and the first one will be Mr. Payne.
Sure. Seville Sabroso Day. Whereas Charlottesville's census report of 2020 recognizes that Charlottesville's Hispanic and Latino populations have increased by more than 40% over the past decade to 3,207 people, which is 7% of the city's population. And whereas the City of Charlottesville recognizes that immigrant community members are the bearers of distinct and valuable cultural histories and tradition, and whereas the city recognizes that Charlottesville is increasingly becoming a culturally rich and diverse place and wishes to encourage the local Hispanic community to publicly share with ease the rich cultural heritage heritage of each and every country that it represents. Sin Barreras brings Charlottesville the 13th annual Seville Sabroso, a Latin American music and folkloric dance festival. And whereas Charlottesville recognizes that we are a nation of immigrants and that the local Hispanic community contributes to a great deal to our city, and whereas the city of Charlottesville supports Sin Barreras, a local nonprofit linking immigrant peoples in the services and opportunities that are available to them, and whereas we are on this occasion acknowledging our Latino immigrants in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month and extend the spirit of cultural inclusiveness to all our immigrant community members in appreciation of the cultural richness they bring to our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the members of the Charlottesville City Council, hereby recognize September 20th, 2025 as Seville Sabroso Day in the city of Charlottesville, and we encourage community members to continue to learn from one another and celebrate this occasion. Is there anyone here?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. Hi, I'm Andrea Jacobs. I'm the Festival Director for Seville Sabroso for Sin Barreras Without Barriers, and we put this together. On behalf of our entire Latino Hispanic community, we extend our heartfelt thanks to the City Council for recognizing Seville Sabroso with this meaningful proclamation. Your support affirms values and contributions that Seville Sabroso represents, and we are deeply honored by this gesture. We are grateful for your partnership and look forward to continuing to do this important work together. With appreciation from Sin Barreras. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great event on Saturday. Thank you. Next is the co-responder in Crisis Responder Week. Councilor Snook.
Thank you. So, whereas the City of Charlottesville, with the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States, have continued to address the issue of mental health concerns and substance abuse disorders, and whereas mental health concerns, substance abuse challenges, and co-occurring conditions often can lead to homelessness, incarceration, and emergency room visits, which are more intrusive and costly for communities than earlier interventions and connections to behavioral health services. And whereas many communities, towns, cities, counties, and states have realized the need for additional resources to address these issues, and specifically when individual persons are experiencing crisis situations, including those in the city of Charlottesville, have identified the promising emerging practice and effective program called Co-Response. And whereas co-response is defined as pairing a crisis-trained mental health professional with a first responder, such as a police officer, a firefighter, or a paramedic, who respond as a team to collaboratively intervene in varying levels of crisis with the goal of diverting individuals from arrest and jail, diverting individuals from emergency department visits, and connecting those individuals in crisis with necessary and effective resources. And whereas the City of Charlottesville's co-responder program, the Anchor Team, that stands for Assisting Navigation, Crisis Help, and Outreach Resources Team, was established in 2024 to partner mental health professionals and peers from our local nonprofit, Partners for Mental Health, with members of the Charlottesville Fire Department and Charlottesville Police Department to respond collaboratively to individuals in crisis. And whereas since its launch in July 2024, the 6-member Anchor Team has responded to over 395 calls for help by members of our community who were in crisis due to mental health and substance use concerns that caused them to call our public safety professionals via 911 for help, engaged in over 142 follow-up calls or resource provision services to members of our community who were in crisis or otherwise needed supportive services. Now, therefore, the Charlottesville City Council recognizes September 14th to the 20th, 2025 as National Co-Responder and Crisis Responder Week in appreciation and gratitude for the Anchor Team members and the International Co-Responder Alliance. And we call upon the community to join us in celebrating the addition of co-response to our community. Signed and sealed this 15th day of September 2025, Juan Diego Wade, Mayor.
First off, I want to thank City Council, and I want to thank the members of the Charlottesville community. We as a team have had a privilege to grow together, as well as aid our citizens here in Charlottesville. We've learned a lot along the way, and we're still learning, and we're still growing. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're ready to conquer and do it. And thank you for this proclamation, and we look forward to our work here in Charlottesville.
All I will add is thank you, City Council, for your continued support, and thank you to the citizens of Charlottesville for trusting and relying on the Anchor team to help you out in crises. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So our next one is a proclamation for McGuffey Arts Center celebrating their 50-year anniversary.
I had the privilege of going to their open house a few nights ago and read this to them there, and I'll read some of it again now. Whereas McGuffey Arts Center was established in October 1975 with the support and encouragement of the Charlottesville City Council, whereas McGuffey Arts Center was tasked by the Charlottesville City Council to participate in the greater community and regional growth through teaching and workshops, showcasing works and exhibitions, hosting events, and community outreach. Whereas McGuffey Arts Center is recognized as one of the oldest artist-run cooperatives in the United States, providing a supportive and collaborative environment for artists and the communities. For 50 years, serving as a cornerstone of artistic life in the city of Charlottesville. And whereas located in the center of downtown Charlottesville, McGuffey Arts Center offers free year-round access to its public art space, including both exhibition space and artists' workspaces, enriching the cultural landscape of our city. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Charlottesville City Council recognizes and celebrates the 50th anniversary of the McGuffey Arts Center, commending its enduring commitment to the arts, its artists, and the Charlottesville community. We extend our deepest gratitude for 5 decades of fostering creativity, supporting our artists, and enriching the lives of our citizens through the power and inspiration of art. Signed and sealed this 15th day of September, Mayor Juan Diego Wade. Someone here from
Bill is here.
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement, and thank you for the long-time support.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So our last proclamation for today is for the 125-year anniversary of University Baptist Church. Whereas the history of the University Baptist Church began when a large group of former members of the Charlottesville Baptist Church met at the Levy Opera House on October 4th, 1900, for the purpose of organizing a new Baptist church to form the High Street Baptist Church. And whereas members of the High Street Baptist Church voted in 1926 to relocate to 1223 West Main Street as the University Baptist to better minister to the students and faculty of the University of Virginia. And whereas the cornerstone of the University Baptist Church was laid on September the 5th, 1928, with the building being dedicated August 11, 1929, just months before the stock market crash that began the Great Depression. And whereas University Baptist Church building was sold and padlocked at the foreclosure in December 1937, forcing the congregation to meet elsewhere. Whereas the congregation repurchased the building following an intensive fundraising campaign led by Cecil Cook, with services resuming April 1939, thus demonstrating that a church is much more than a building. And whereas University Baptist Church has continuously ministered to the University of Virginia and the Charlottesville community in the years since. And therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Charlottesville Council recognizes and celebrates the 125-year anniversary of University Baptist Church in the contribution of its members in the service to the Charlottesville and University of Virginia. Signed 15th day of September 2025 by Mayor Juan Diego Wade. So, Mayor.
thank you so much. We really appreciate this recognition, and we appreciate the opportunity to have had 125 years of sharing good news and hope with our community, and we look forward to doing so for 125 more. Thank you.
Thank you. We now at the first opportunity for Community Matters, and so we have 8 slots of people that have pre-registered, and after those, we'll have opportunity for 8 more, and then there'll be another opportunity at the end. The first person signed to speak is Kate Lambert.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Kate Lambert. I live at 1227 River Vista Avenue, and I serve as the CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Virginia. I'm here tonight to thank Mayor Wade and Council for your very, very generous support and for restoring our FY26 funding to our previous levels for the Boys and Girls Club. Thanks to you, our Cherry Avenue Club in the city served 175 children and teens daily this past summer when the club was open all day. Members participated in programs that promote academic success, health and well-being, character and leadership, and life and workforce readiness. Our members participated in STEM Olympics. They participated in challenges in another Olympics event in Orange, where our Cherry Avenue members took home 2 gold medals, 1 silver medal, and a bronze medal. 188 members participated in Triple Play, which is a program that addresses the whole child from the perspectives of healthy habits, including physical activity, good nutrition, and social and emotional wellness. All of our members at Cherry Avenue participated in the 20-20-20 program, 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of writing, and 20 minutes of STEM daily. Our Cherry Avenue 3rd and 4th graders benefited from a literary specialist who helped them combat summer learning loss. Over the course of 2 project-based learning units, 85% of our members maintained or improved their reading skills. They participated in field trips to the Science Museum of Virginia. We had teen takeover events at Urban Air and Topgolf. And our teens participated in career chats with UVA facilities. They learned masonry, circuitry, and landscaping, and toured the college campus. They also heard from Centera healthcare professionals, Metabolic Gym and UVA athletics, social media promoters, cosmetology professionals, and they learned about entrepreneurship from the leaders at Roback Apparel. Since the school year started, we've had over 200 members participate in cooking, chess, which is very popular with our teens, STEM, art, Power Hour, where they receive tutoring in reading and math. We've served over 1,700 snacks since the school year started. And this past weekend, our Cherry Avenue teens participated in a Youth of the Year leadership kickoff, where they participated in activities around the themes of lead, succeed, and inspire. That was followed by a fun tailgate celebration. It was especially wonderful to see our teens talking to each other without cell phones. Thanks to you all, we've been able to maintain affordable membership fees to families of only $35 per year. Thank you so much for helping us provide these opportunities for children and teens in the Charlottesville community, and for helping us give parents and caregivers one less thing to worry about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
Good evening. My name is Joy Johnson, and I am the chair of FAR. And I'm here to speak about the building that is going to be going up behind West Haven. But I would like to read a statement that someone asked me to read today. It says, the American scene has been continues to have negative impact upon the poor, especially black, that are unproductive for all. Here we go again, Charlottesville City Council, with the support of private section greed, including the national government, destroyed a valuable black community, enforced rigid racial segregation in housing, public housing and private, and deny opportunity and potential to self-determination to black neighborhoods and citizens. Now, the city continue in this vein of destruction, where the poor must suffer vital population and social stigma through racist spot zoning by denying neglect and private sector greed to legally pollute the visual and social environment of poor in West Haven. Local decision maker hold office at the bequest vote of citizens, which damned all who permit such irresponsible, mean-spirited, and calculated wrong to continue. All are responsible, and all are responsible. Here's some points that I made before, and I'm making them again, that will right the wrongs, the poor, and embrace fairness in our city. Move with dispatch to execute the following. 1, council take its legal responsibility to reverse errors in the correcting inclusive zoning. Enforce including new legislation to deny vital population, i.e. building height. Give priority of land use management to those most negatively impacted. Listen, not just simply heard, the voice and cry, careful recommendation of black and poor. Reaffirm a commitment to real inclusive zoning that goes beyond the parcel development. I also want to give you an update about our petition. We have over 700 people who have signed a petition, and we will give you an update. We do not want that big building behind West Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Wendy Gale. Wendy Gale.
My name is Wendy Gao, and I'm a community organizer at the Public Housing Association of Residents. There's a prevailing narrative about housing in Charlottesville that needs to be debunked and changed. It is a myth that new housing makes it cheaper for everyone. We need to seriously interrogate this Econ 101 logic and break it down. If we only build market rate luxury apartments, Econ 101 tells us that the supply curve will increase and prices will go down. This is Econ 101 thinking precisely because it doesn't actually explain how the world actually works. Since 2015, Charlottesville has seen the construction of 10 luxury apartment complexes, and rent prices have only surged. Trickle-down housing doesn't work. The only thing this logic does is attract residents who can afford these egregious rent prices. The prices in those housing communities then skyrocket and displace residents, mostly black and brown people who were previously able to afford living there, but cannot anymore because of these new luxury apartments. We need to call this what it is. It is gentrification, and it is happening to the already diminished historically black neighborhoods left in Charlottesville because of this Reaganomics thinking promoted by several city councilors. We also need to interrogate how we talk about this housing emergency. There is one, but it is not the one in which we need to build as much housing, any housing, as possible. The crisis is in deeply affordable housing, meaning affordable by extremely low-income families below 30% area median income. We need to be clear about exactly what the housing emergency is so this city can stop feeding black, low-income neighborhoods to bloodthirsty multi-billion-dollar developers in the name of addressing the housing crisis and adding to the housing stock by any means necessary. I get that affordable housing units need to be funded and that, yes, that might mean building some market-rate housing, but any concessions to get the deeply affordable housing built needs to be done in conversation with the most impacted communities. They need to be in the room making those decisions. City Council cannot just decide what needs to be sacrificed for the end goal of affordable housing. Black and brown people are the people who need deeply affordable housing the most, who are the most rent burdened, who are most at risk of losing their housing and of being unhoused. So any steps to address the housing emergency must center, protect, and put these populations at the forefront at all costs. Anything less is dishonest and co-optive, which means we cannot build any luxury student housing above West Haven, 10th and Page, or Fifeville in the name of affordable housing or addressing the housing crisis. A city councilor at the last meeting said we want to preserve a parking lot. This isn't about a parking lot, and to say so is insulting to the West Haven residents who have been redesigning their community below that parking lot for the past 3 years. This is about protecting and preserving the black people and neighborhoods that have been displaced dispossessed, extracted from, encroached upon, and enslaved for centuries in this country, and especially in this city where Thomas Jefferson built his bloody university on violently stolen land. That is why we need to amend the zoning and oppose these luxury student housing developments on West Main Street.
Thank you. Frank Boucher. Frank.
Council members, mayor, city manager, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Frank Bechter. I'm a resident of Fifeville, talking just in that capacity. I live at 304 6.5 Street Southwest. Council, the city of Charlottesville has a mandate since 2017 at least. And this council, I think, adopted that mandate in 2017 or 2018. I don't know if it would be official, but I think it's very clear. And that mandate is affordable housing. Affordable housing, translation, could be anyone who works in Charlottesville ought to be able to live in Charlottesville or anywhere else there's going to be affordable housing. That's a very noble and good and challenging task. How to do it? An ideal place for affordable housing is in Fifeville, where I live. Specifically at a place that is currently not very developed. It has a few houses there, historical in two cases. It's on 7th Avenue between the railroad tracks and Delavant. That's the area that has just been spoken of, one of the areas that a proposed absolutely humongous student housing, luxury student housing project has been proposed, and I guess has been looked on with some favor. So I'm here to speak very much against that. I said Fifeville. Fifeville, beyond the council's mandate, as I say, it has a sort of a related concern. It's really very earnestly and admirably, I really appreciate it, embraced Fifeville. Fifeville, since I think maybe 2017, has had a city council liaison or a city liaison there. The city manager, the mayor, the council members, you've been there many times and spoken there in long, very involved, energetic, vital meetings. So we very much appreciate that. I certainly do. And I find that very valuable. So my impression is that the council cares about Fifeville, cares about affordable housing, cares about not displacing the residents of Fifeville. Now, I don't have a graphic, but if you looked at this proposed housing, as I'm sure you have just for Fifeville, the other one is even bigger, it's humongous. It completely dwarfs anything else in the vicinity even. As a reference point, the church there on Main Street is a very large, impressive church. It looks like a little hut in comparison to the proposed structure. The council's relationship with Fifeville has involved caring about parking there, caring about traffic, caring about homelessness. As council discussed recently in one of the recent meetings, one of the leading causes of homelessness is the lack of affordable housing. We need it there, but we don't need this project there. Thank you very much. I'm going to submit a neighbor of mine's draft of an emergency measure that he would like you to adopt. It hasn't been vetted or anything, but I have read it, and I do think it contains valuable ideas.
Oh, I'm sorry if you can get to. The next speaker is Sarah Malpass. Sarah? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Malpass, and I live at 626 Bailey Road in the Fifeville neighborhood. I'm also the vice president of the Fifeville Neighborhood Association. As I begin remarks, I do want to take the moment to thank each of you for the love and the care that you've shown to the Fifeville community over the years. We're very grateful for your service and your partnership with the Fifeville Neighborhood Association in serving our residents. Today, I'm here to speak in support of the 10th and Page, West Haven, and Fifeville neighborhoods and against luxury student housing developments in our community. We just had our Fifeville Neighborhood Association meeting this past Thursday, and this was on the agenda. Firstly, the FNA stands in solidarity with FAR and the 10th and Page Neighborhood Association in opposition to the planned 8 to 11 story building on Main Street. We underscore their concerns about the lack of authentic engagement and partnership from the developer. their concerns about the impact of the building on West Haven, their concerns about the philosophy of trickle-down housing, and their concerns about the destruction of Black communities in our core neighborhoods. In Fifeville, we're now facing a similar development on 7th Street that Frank just spoke about. The development will be before the BAR again on October 21st, I believe, and our residents are also concerned about the impact that this development will have on Fifeville, and we are in conversation with the developers about the future of the site. On its face, while by right development within the zoning code, the current proposal in Fifeville does not fit the vision of the Cherry Avenue Small Area Plan because it is intended for luxury student housing and would not be financially accessible or culturally related to our community. In addition, we are concerned about the impacts on the surrounding historic district and neighboring homes, and I can discuss those particular concerns in front of the BAR. The points I wanted to make tonight are threefold. First, the FNA was involved heavily, as you know, with CVille plans together, and we did not understand that our new zoning allowed for this kind of luxury student housing. Our conversations with the city really focused on the future of Cherry Avenue, and I'm really sorry that this was not something that we were able to discuss extensively with our residents and give more substantive feedback on. At any rate, the by right zoning on this property or these properties is not aligned with the Cherry Avenue Small Area Plan. Secondly, I would ask that we work together to amend the code to require early and frequent consultation on developments of a certain scale, especially in our core neighborhoods. I would ask that City Council and NDS staff work with the core neighbors to develop an amendment to the zoning code that requires consultation with impacted neighbors whenever developments of a certain scale are proposed. And we know that this works. In the 501 Cherry Avenue process, that proactive engagement and trust building between developers and neighborhoods can result in win-win proposals for communities.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Angela Carr. Hello.
My bad. So this is like my first time speaking at one of these. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm okay because I'm outspoken. Hey, Mr. Wade, how you doing?
Good to see you.
My name's Angela Carr. I am a citizen of this neighborhood. I was born and raised here. My whole life, I'm in my 30s. So I'm gonna start off with saying, can you really, like for real, see a seriously tall building hovering over luxury at that, but hovering over a neighborhood that doesn't see or have that luxury, or that hasn't seen or had that luxury since that place has been built? Like, let's be honest. Like, we have this man coming, and I'm not I'm not against somebody, you know, giving more to the community or trying to give back to the community, but you got to think about the community while you're doing it. Like, you're talking about building a huge building, so you'll bring rich people, you know, into this building, and then those people will walk past windows and look down on people that are living poor. That just makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense. So, I mean, I understand you have by right, like, laws and you can legally, like, build stuff, but if you have the community coming saying, hey, like, we have a problem with this, you have the community saying, hey, we have a problem with this. And I think, like, beyond anything, the community's, how we feel about it, how we see it, how we are going to live it, how we are going to be in it, how we have to drive in it, how we have to wake up in it. This is our community. We are in it every day. So I feel like ultimately the word has to be what the community says. And I understand, you know, like, this person may feel like this building needs to be built, but that's not going to help the community. Like, if you donate that $120 million that West Haven needs to redevelop and get everything that they've been needing for, what the oldest member I think is about 70 or 80 years old on the FAR. I'm sorry, I'm also a FAR board member. Sorry, I didn't say that, but the oldest member on the FAR board member is about 70 plus, right? Am I wrong? So 70 plus, she still hasn't seen any redevelopment. You know what I mean? So to turn around and you got a big old wall and people walking out, getting in, you know, Tesla cars and Tesla trucks right around the corner from people who are still walking and catching the bus, and thank God it's free, because if it wasn't, they'd be walking. You get what I'm saying? So it really is wrong. Like, you have to know that it's wrong to allow someone to come in and build this huge building and hover over top of everyone that don't really have or never seen had. You know what I mean? Imagine someone taking you out of your comfort zone and putting you somewhere where you're totally uncomfortable. Like, I used to live in St. Louis, long story short, for about 9 years. And living in St. Louis and coming from Charlottesville, you see all the trees, you see all the beauty, you see all the nature. But then you go to St. Louis, you see buildings that are broken down, you know what I mean? And they're closer to the black suburban areas where it's really is messed up. And it shouldn't be like that here at home, where you are at home. It should not be like that, especially for the black melanated children that are growing up. Oh, and on top of that, we need the sun to thrive. If you bake that building, how they gonna grow correctly? You know what I mean? So yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
how I feel.
Welcome back. Ms. Parker? Ms. Parker?
Good evening. My name is Rosia
Good
Parker.
evening.
I am a West Haven resident. Main Street, Wartland, luxury living. UVA is an institution who seems to not care for other common people in Charlottesville, especially people of color, shoving modern-day slavery over our heads, treating us as less than because of the plans were already made before coming into our community. Based on our race, they seem to think that we had to be much appreciative. So they act like we are misguided, miseducated, but we are just misunderstood, fighting for daily life of happiness, wholeness, and all we want is equity and fairness. That's the core of our issue, because there is no trust. There needs to be a common ground that we will all work together as well as benefit our community. I'm sorry, I got different pieces. With my disruptive voice, fighting for change, no, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was
No,
rushing.
that's
I had another meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Counselors, do not look down on nobody unless you are helping them up. Leaders must be tough enough to fight, tender enough to cry, human enough to absorb the pain, and be resilient enough to bounce back. Keep moving. So with my disruptive voice, fighting for change from this chaos, I will never back down or give up the fight, nor will I surrender, nor will I will forever stand strong for our rights as human people and people of color. When everyone is included, all wins. So we are residents of West Haven, 10th and Page, and we will continue to fight by any means necessary, and if they don't get it, we will shut it down.
Thank you. Alicia?
Good evening. My name is Alicia Lenahan. I'm a county resident. On the morning of Sunday, September 15th, 1963, a bomb ripped through the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. It was Youth Day. Just 5 days before, black children had entered formerly all-white schools after a court order required that they be desegregated. The bombing occurred 4 months after the Southern Christian Leadership Conference organized a Young People's March in Birmingham. When the children agreed to participate, the SCLC held workshops on the techniques of nonviolence and warned them of the danger they would be facing. On May 2nd, 1963, they gathered at the 16th Street Baptist Church. As students moved in waves the short distance toward City Hall, singing "We Shall Overcome," police officers arrested more than 600 of them and blocked the streets with fire trucks. Ultimately, they used fire hoses and dogs. Oh, the things we ask of our children. You may not know that today, children as young as 2 are required to represent themselves in immigration court. You do know that young people in our community today are living without parents who have been disappeared. Older siblings are gathering resources so they can care for younger brothers and sisters. Oh, the things we ask of our children. Report after report of violence swallowed up the news cycle last week, so you may have missed the Supreme Court decision handed down on September 8th that allows racial profiling so the administration can carry out its mass immigration strategy. The wreckage caused by this ruling will injure individuals, families, and yes, children, for as long as it's allowed to stand. Although it effectively singles out the Latinx community, you know it will erode constitutional safeguards for all of us. Racial profiling denies humanity and violates the dignity it confers. It is not only unjust, it is inhumane. Every neighbor, regardless of economic status, race or ethnicity, and immigration status, deserves safety, dignity, and equal protection under the law. Racial profiling, a legacy of white supremacy, is rooted in the sin of racism. You were presented with an anti-ICE resolution in July that you have largely ignored. All we are asking is that you say no. You cannot come to Charlottesville in unmarked cars, out of uniform, with no badge visible or warrants presented, and assault our residents, batter our residents, kidnap and traffic them. It is against the law.
Thank you. So we have the opportunity for 8 other speakers. Who would like to speak first? Yes.
Hi, my name is Sophia Marrero, and I'm a community organizer at the Public Housing Association of Residents. I'm here to speak against LV Collective's huge building that they're trying to build on West Main Street. I echo what everyone else has said, and just want to add and reiterate that trickle-down housing is a myth. What we need is deeply affordable housing, which means affordable by families at or below 30% area median income. The construction of the Standard, the Flats, and the Lark did not alleviate the burden of Charlottesville's housing stock or decrease prices. Rents in Charlottesville have actually surged since 2021, and in 2025, rent in Charlottesville outpaces both state and national averages. Trickle-down housing logic causes more gentrification and displacement. Building more market-rate luxury apartments attracts and lures wealthy, often white residents into historically black, previously affordable neighborhoods. Many black and brown residents have had to move out of the city because they cannot afford to live here anymore. More luxury student housing along West Main doesn't necessarily get students out of other residentially historical black areas. Building in excess of luxury student housing makes this issue worse because it actually makes it more competitive to find cheaper, affordable housing so students continue to compete with long-term residents. And City Council should not be prioritizing students over long-time residents of Charlottesville. UVA does not pay property taxes and also has a $14 billion endowment. Make UVA take care and house its students. Given the institution's violent history of indigenous genocide, enslavement, and ongoing gentrification of black communities, Charlottesville City does not owe UVA anything. The priority ought to be to the literal descendants of the enslaved laborers who built UVA, many of whom were residents of Vinegar Hill, now living in public housing, or who do not live in Charlottesville City proper because they have been pushed out by sky-high prices and gentrifiers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the middle section?
Hi, my name is Laura Goldblatt. I live in Belmont, and I'm here also to speak against LV Collective's development along West Main. I recently finished a 6-year term as a commissioner with the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and so I know what it's like to give up your weekends and your evenings to serve your community. Thank you for being here. As a commissioner, I also got to know some of the resident planners on our sites, including those at West Haven. These are also hardworking people who gave up their evenings and weekends, precious time with their families, to make their communities better. Now, the LV's proposed luxury housing for students on West Main threatens that work. These are the same residents who have borne the brunt of mistaken housing policy, bad decisions, classism, and racism for decades. They are mostly black and brown residents who have been dispossessed of the land and the property they have worked so hard for simply to enrich others. I'm here to support West Haven residents and the Fifeville Neighborhood Association in opposing luxury student housing on West Main and in our vulnerable neighborhoods moving forward. I've had many conversations with nearly all of you about affordable housing, and I share your admirable commitment to the new zoning code. But we have identified a mistake in this code, and we need to fix it. I know from these prior conversations that some in this city think that any development will help low-income residents, but this is not true. We know this for 2 reasons. First, trickle-down housing policy has been our policy in this city for decades, and that policy has handed us our current housing crisis. We also know that because, like all market goods, housing is comparative. Its value fluctuates along with the market. When the city conducts a tax assessment for a dwelling or other structure, they determine that value in part by comparing it to the comparable housing nearby. That means that as luxury developments go up in a neighborhood, neighboring properties increase in value. Along with that increase, the tax burden increases. That leads to displacement for homeowners who can't afford these additional taxes and displacement of renters because, guess what? Landlords pass those higher taxes onto their renters. They don't eat them. This means that luxury housing can quickly make a neighborhood less affordable rather than more. I am asking you now to prioritize people over property, to follow through on what you started with the zoning code, correct the X corridor development error, and prioritize affordable housing for low, very low, and extremely low-income families with their consultation, those who need it the most. Now more than ever, we must learn to find a way to help and protect one another. Correcting the code is a first step in making that support a habit. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your service on the board, Laura. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to try to get you. Anyone over here like to speak? Okay, I'll come back over here. Yes, you. I'll get you, Ms. Carr.
Hello, my name is Dr. Emily Yen. I'm a resident of Charlottesville. I live at 318 4th Street Southeast, apartment 31. I'm here today to request additional funding for the CAT bus system. This is an essential service for residents of Charlottesville, especially for elderly and disabled residents. Right now, there is insufficient funding to have 15-minute services on all routes, and I would encourage you to increase the funding in order to support that level of service. I would also request that to improve infrastructure at bus stops, especially to make it ADA compliant. And then I also request for the microtransit service to be brought in-house. This is a service that can and should be done by current CAT employees. And I would encourage you to just bring it all in-house so everyone who's working for CAT can make a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone, yes, you, the black, and then I'll get you after I get Ms. Carr, okay?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I don't know, is it evening? Yeah, it's evening.
Yes.
Okay. We are, as you can see, a bunch of students in the back. We are part of Friends of FAR, which is a newly formed organization. Under the guidance of FAR, we are here to help and assist the community in any way possible. And as UVA students, we do not approve of this new luxury student housing. We are entirely against it, and it is nonsensical to be students of the university without recognizing and interrogating the historic violence of UVA in Charlottesville from the unceded Monacan land it was violently built on with enslaved communities, with black laborers to the current present-day gentrification and displacement of black communities. We refuse as students to take part in these ongoing processes of violence, displacement, and dispossession. It is the burden of both UVA to contend and redress with these histories by housing its students outside of these historically black neighborhoods, and the burden of Charlottesville City to prioritize these long-term black and brown residents. We are here in support of these residents. We do not approve of these new student luxury housing buildings, and we will continue to support and fight for these residents, however long that may take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you have your name?
Excuse me. We didn't get your name?
Oh, Abba Kodiaga, and then everyone here is the Friends of FAR.
Okay. I'm going to get Ms. Carr and then you, okay? Ms. Carr?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Salithia Carr. I am the CEO of Not Me, I Believe, former organizer with FAR, a court facilitator for Central Virginia Community Justice. I am a long-time resident. This is my community. I love my community, and I will always stand for those that cannot stand for themselves. I will always be there because I believe in just I believe in justice and not just us. Because this building that they're wanting to build, luxury, we never had that luxury in West Haven. We never had that. So when you're talking about you want to put luxury over top of somewhere that's been here for a long time, before I was even born, when are we going to have that opportunity that it happened for us? Us that's been here, that is still here. We are still making things move the way they should. And somebody coming over and hovering over us, that's done in Main Street. They lied when they put that over there by where? By Grady?
The dairy.
Huh? The dairy market? It was a lie. And there's continuous and people are coming just to put us down in the slums. That's where we are. I can't stand for that. Looking over me, looking over us. It is unfair. It is not right. When are people going to look at us to come up? Because we're still down, and we'll continue to be kicked down, pushed out. It is unfair. I've been to city council plenty of times talking about the same exact thing, and then it's happening over and over and over again. Y'all are the fathers and mothers of the city. We're looking for you guys to see, hey, wait a minute, these are our children, and we are. I've been here for a long time. Angela happens to be one of my nieces, and for her to stand up, and she's younger. She's a next generation coming here speaking. We need to be more about us. When are we going to get this break? Because it seems like we're never getting that, and everybody else coming in, and we're being pushed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Susan McCulley. I'm a resident of the county and the owner of 2 properties in the city. I'm picking up where Alicia Lenahan left off. On July 7th, the council received a resolution that will provide some level of protection for our immigrant and refugee neighbors, and indeed for the entire community, by requiring that ICE agents be unmasked, display badges, present authorizing documents, and use marked vehicles. When asked why the council wouldn't even bring it up for discussion, 2 excuses were offered. First, you don't want to draw attention to Charlottesville and our vulnerable neighbors, thereby putting them at risk. However, when we asked members of the Latinx community for input, this was one response. Quote, "The resolution is very well written and intentional. Thank you for moving this forward. What would be the next steps for this process?" End quote. It's also worth noting that on September 20th, we will all be welcomed at the Sabroso Festival to enjoy music, food, and a celebration of Latinx culture. Clearly, our neighbors aren't lacking courage. There was no response from the council to this information. Second, you said the resolution will run afoul of Dillon's rule, which limits local control. Again, the council did not respond when we pointed out that Virginia Code 18.2-422 prohibits the wearing of masks in certain areas. It is a Class 6 felony. Dillon's rule does not prevent the police department from enforcing the law. Over 1,500 people have signed the petition in support of the resolution, a number that continues to grow. Last Thursday, nearly 170 people attended a training that taught them how to safely and effectively observe and record ICE abductions. Many of us will be at the Sabroso on Saturday, enjoying the event, observing, and if necessary, buffering unwanted intrusion. We aren't asking you to put your bodies in the struggle. We are asking you to use your power and authority to support your constituents. Please stand up. Dr. King said that no one can ride your back unless it is bent. We are not the first ones who've had to fight against overwhelming odds. Remember the American creed. It's in the first 3 words of the Constitution. We the people. We must believe that ultimately it's not about the people in power, it's about the power that's in the people. We all have to straighten our backs and stand up.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? We got 2 more slots. 2 more. Well, we need to, before we double up, we have 2 more slots.
Thanks, Isis. I actually don't feel super comfortable speaking, but I just wanted to add my voice to the support of West Haven and 10th and Page residents.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. You gotta raise it high. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anna Nkandawere. I am an urban planning student at UVA, and I'm also here on behalf of Friends of FAR and FAR. I don't have much to say other than I believe in the commitment to our community and the commitment to the city. I think that President Ryan, former President Ryan of UVA, had a commitment to being great and good. And I think in line of that, despite our changing political climate, despite the changing political climate here in Virginia, I think that we as a community need to know what we stand for and what if we stand for us all rather than just a few particular people. I believe in the rights of our Black residents. I believe in the rights of all of our residents, including our Afghani refugees, other migrant workers who are here in this city. I believe the problems of citizenship, of borders, of security, and of low-income housing all relate to each other. And if we are to have a community of care, if we are to commit to the plans that this city has established, then we need to care for everyone, and that requires us to all be taking a stand. I lay that responsibility on the council, but also as us as residents. Who are we when nobody is looking? Who are we when we don't feel that we have legal or obligated responsibility? Who are we, I guess, when nobody's watching? So, yeah, that is all I have to say.
Thank you. So that was the last speaker for this opportunity, for this time. There'll be another time at the end of the meeting.
Yes, and just briefly, I wonder if it may be worth at some point getting an analysis from the city attorney, whether we have the legal authority to dictate how federal law enforcement operates within our locality. Whatever approach we take, I feel like it would be important to just fully establish, is that something we have the legal authority to do? Is it a statement of principles? What is our exact legal authority? And the second, just briefly, is, this is not the first time we've heard from 10th and Page, West Haven, Fifeville residents concerned about this. And I've said it before, but I'll repeat it. I think this speaks to the fact that in the new zoning, the conversation at that time was overwhelmingly focused on the residential districts, RA, RB, RC. Many people in the community did not pay attention to the X districts, and particularly that by right and 10th and Page, Fifeville, Rose Hill, 11 stories is allowed by right in many areas. The only thing that's going to get built there is student housing. I'm not making that up. That's from the city's own planning documents, our very own economic analysis. It's the only type of housing that has enough rents per square foot to pencil out above 7 stories. And I believe it was a mistake to do as extensively as that. We need that type of housing in JPA. We need it along Ivy Road. But the impact of that in 10th and Page and Fifeville is very different than in JPA or Ivy. And the final point I would make, something I think people should also pay attention to, is in the new zoning code, there's all these formulas for inclusionary zoning. One of them is that student housing pays a lower affordable housing fee if it's within 0.5 miles of the University of Virginia. The zoning administrator determines where that 0.5 boundary is set at. Currently, the boundary chosen was UVA hospital system buildings, not the rotunda, not main campus. That project on West Main, as well as the Fifeville project, are farther than 0.5 miles from the rotunda. If our metric now is 0.5 miles from the university as any hospital system building, that means most of Fifeville in 10th and Page up past Page Street is all targeted for what is appropriate for student housing under the new zoning code. These are all things that are just very important for the community to understand, because unless the zoning is changed to not allow it by right, there is no mechanism to have a community benefits agreement or have your voice in this matter at all. So I'll just offer that.
Thank you, Michael. We're now at the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
Consent agenda. Number 5, a resolution to appropriate grant funds from the Ann and Jean Worrell Foundation for the KYIP Community Attention Youth Internship Program in the amount of $42,480. Second reading. 6, a resolution to appropriate Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act grant, $452,704. Second reading. 7, resolution to appropriate Virginia State Police FY26 HEAT equipment reimbursement funding, $10,000. Second reading. 8, resolution to appropriate $25,680 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services 2026 JAG Law Enforcement Equipment Grant. Second reading. 9, resolution appropriating Charlottesville Albemarle Adult Recovery Court Grant Award in the amount of $240,000, one of 2 readings. 10, resolution to appropriate Victim Witness Grant, $299,672, one of 2 readings. 11, resolution to appropriate funding from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, HIV, or HOPWA, grant 25 HOPWA 303, not sure what that is, in the amount of $392,582, one of 2 readings.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I move for adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
We can vote. Okay. We're now at the city manager's report. Mr. Sanders.
Yeah, it's a two-parter this evening. First, we're going to hear from the Foothills Child Advocacy Center as a part of the continued effort to bring to you your fundamental and intergovernmental partners for presentations, just for updates as we head into the next budget cycle.
Good evening. I'm Sherry McKinney, and I have the privilege of being the CEO at Foothills Children's Advocacy Center. And I just want to start by saying thank you so much for your time and for your support over the years. We're very grateful to be in partnership with you.
It's over here.
Oh, am I the wrong one?
You can control it.
You can
That's
bring it
fine.
to either one.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. Okay, great. So I wanted to include this slide because this is my team, and I have a team of rock stars, and I wanted you to see who they are. I have been referring to Foothills as Foothills 2.0, meaning this is not a new chapter in our book. This is really a whole new volume. I've been at Foothills about 18 months, and during that time, we've had the opportunity to do some really incredible things. We have a new name. We are not Foothills Child Advocacy Center anymore. We are Children's Advocacy Center because we want to be more inclusive of who we serve. We have a new logo, which I hope you got to see it. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I think it's beautiful. And our new tagline, which is Healing Starts Here. Very, very excited to announce that we moved. We were on High Street for years. The mayor was there recently. Well, you have to come. We're on Pantops now in a beautiful new space. We're co-located with Sarah, which we are so excited about the opportunity to not only save funds, but to work more closely and collaboratively with them. We have a new website that's going to be launching by the end of next week, and our board will be finishing a strategic plan on Monday. If you don't know who we are or what we do, Foothills is one of your fundamental services, and we're really grateful to be considered in that category. We provide services. We work hand in hand with your law enforcement. Detective Smar and I were talking earlier. We partner with your law enforcement and your children's services in particular. And when they get a case and there is a concern that a child has been sexually abused, severely physically abused, a human trafficking victim, or they have witnessed violence, they bring those kids to Foothills, and we provide these 4 core services. We provide these forensic interviews. What is a forensic interview? It is a legally sound, non-leading interview in a place that is very comfortable to the child, with the goal of giving them the opportunity, after establishing rapport, to disclose abuse if that has occurred. There are 19 CACs in the Commonwealth. 5 of them provide on-site medical. 2 of them have a board-certified pediatrician, and we're one of them, child abuse pediatrician. Very, very important. They're kind of like unicorns, and we have one. So we provide on-site medical exams to the kids that we serve, and that's important because when a child has experienced trauma like that, the best place for them is not in an emergency department, right? Where they tell their story over and over and can experience more trauma. We also have family advocacy services, and that is really important because the majority of kids that we serve, they know their perpetrator. This is not a stranger danger, that's uncommon. And so not only do the kids that we serve know the perpetrator, but so does their caregiver oftentimes. And so all the feels that the kids are feeling, the parents are feeling the same thing. They're sad, they're mad, they're angry, they're scared. Mom is thinking, oh my God, how do I pay the rent? This is my partner, we have a baby, what do I do? So we have a family advocate who meets that person where they are, I just got goosebumps, who walks beside them, connects them with services, because what we know, research shows, what determines a kid's resilience, the number one thing is that they have a supportive adult in their life. And we want to empower that caregiver to fill that role. The last core service we provide is our multidisciplinary team case review, and I know that's really a mouthful, and what that means in very basic terms is that we serve 9 localities, Charlottesville, Albemarle, and kind of like the 7 surrounding counties. So we have 9 teams, over 200 people involved, and your law enforcement, your children's services, your Commonwealth attorney, and then our partners, UVA Medical, Ready Kids, CASA, etc. We meet monthly, and we staff every case that comes through because we don't want these kids falling in the cracks, right? We want to make sure they get their needs met, and we want justice for them. And justice is different for different kids, right? But we follow them through the entire investigative process. It costs us last fiscal year, a little over $3,100 to serve one child. Some successes I want to share with you. Last fiscal year, we really focused on streamlining our operations, and we were really successful at fundraising. The most we had ever raised was $125,000, and last year we raised $413,000, and this year we're going to raise $418,000 or more. We also
That's amazing, by the way. Just
thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, super excited. We also added a director of MDT services, which is also another unicorn. There's only a handful in the Commonwealth. And really, we take those teams of your professionals that we work with so seriously that it's always been kind of like that other thing we do, and that's not sufficient. Our kids deserve more than that. So we hired a person who's a rock star. Her name is Amber Blair, and she is our new director of MDT services. Last year, we served 303 children. 55 of them were your residents. Our challenges. We do not have on-site mental health services. Our kids they need, and they deserve mental health services. I don't have to tell you there's a crisis in our country, right? Well, there's a lot of crises in our country. One of them is mental health services. Our kids have really specific needs, and they need mental health care. So number one goal, add mental health services. And then I would love for every kid who comes to Foothills to be able to get a medical on site, and that's not possible. Right now, our contract with UVA is for 26 hours, so they see about 30% of our kids, and I would love to have on-site medical there full-time, so no kid has to go, unless unless it is a young child that has skeletal, that needs an x-ray. That, I don't want an x-ray machine at Foothills, okay? But other than that, I want every kid to be able to come to a really safe, warm, comfortable place and not the ED. As far as our concerns, federally, we are part of the National Children's Alliance body. There are over 900 children's advocacy centers in the country. We are one of them, and we follow best practices. There used to be 10 of them. Forensic interviewing, family advocacy, MDT, medical, diversity, equity, and access, and now that is gone. That has been eliminated, so there are no longer 10 best practice standards for accreditation. Our last accreditation was in 2022. Now there's 9, and all the resources and tools that went along with that have been eliminated. There is a very, very vital resource to us called the Zero Abuse Project, where there were decades of research and tools, and we use them frequently. Again, those resources have been removed. We also, for many years before I got to Foothills, got VOCA funding, Victim of Crime Act funding. Those are federal dollars for white-collar crimes. That funding has vanished. It has disappeared. We're very thankful that the state has filled that gap so far. We're hopeful that will continue, but you know how that works, right? And thankfully, NCA is working on a new federal funding stream that they also hope can fill that VOCA gap. Okay, well, that's the super, super fast Foothills version and update. And again, I'm happy to take any questions that you have, and really just want to thank you so much for your really vital support.
So are there questions or comments? Natalie, do you have anything?
I had a question when I was taking notes earlier. What was it? You might have to come back to me. Go ahead, Michael.
Lloyd, you have
I have no
any?
questions.
Brian? While you're looking outside, so I vividly recall the tour, and I was just amazed at the work that you all do there. So I have I think I asked you this when we were doing the tour, because you and your workers, you only, like every day you see families and children probably in one of the worst situations in their life. What are y'all doing for your mental health, for your self-care?
Thank you for asking. This last fiscal year, we partnered with a local mental health provider. Some of you may know Shannon Noe. She years ago was on one of our MDTs, so she knows our work very, very intimately. And we made her services available. I don't even know who accessed them. I just got a bill every month. It just said one person, 6 people, whatever. And we made that service available, Mayor, not just to our staff, but to all of our MDTs as well. So that's one thing. I think I shared in my PowerPoint that we really worked on shoring things up internally, and that's making sure that staff have enough time and that they take time. And we've done a lot of training as far as like trauma and responses, and we check in with each other and really try to take good care of each other. I really appreciate that question. I was telling Detective Smar that, our program director has done 3,700 forensic interviews. That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, thanks for asking.
One last question. In your old building, you had like, a medical room in there. So was it space in the new building to have
you
that?
have to come.
Okay, I'll come
You
visit.
have to come. Well, we're going to have an open house. I'll
Yeah,
be sure to
okay.
tell all of you when. But yes, we have a medical office. The main reason we moved, Mayor, is because, I don't know if this was the case when you were there, but literally I had staff in a hallway. We had literally no space.
Yeah, it was at the end of the hallway. It was-
Yeah, so we have 3 empty offices now because we're going to add mental health services. So the 418 I told you I'm going to raise doesn't count the 130 I'm going to raise for a mental health person, because we're going to have mental health on site. So we have plenty of room to grow.
Good, thank you. Did you?
And new recording equipment, brand new state-of-the-art recording equipment, thanks to CACF and the Worrell Foundation.
Oh, great.
Great. funding is actually a good segue into what my question was. You said that you provided service to 303 children and their families. 55 of them were from Charlottesville. Charlottesville has you all designated as a fundamental organization, so we guarantee funding every year. I'm assuming that the other children are from the surrounding counties.
Correct.
Are you a fundamental organization in their eyes, or how is their funding assured to reach you all?
It's competitive in the other localities that we serve. Albemarle last fiscal year 25 gave us approximately $50,000, and I asked you for $104,999, and that's what you gave me. So that's what I asked Albemarle for, and they gave us like 98. So not quite what you gave us, but it was a 50% or 100%, whatever. It was a bit doubled. It was big. It was a big increase. And then the rest of the localities, really, it's like 17,000 from Fluvanna, 9,000 from Buckingham. So it kind of trickles in. We serve less children from those localities, but they also have a lot, the resources are more limited. So which is why we rely a lot on foundations and individual fundraising. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and are Charlottesville and Albemarle your biggest contributors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Charlottesville and then Albemarle. And I'm not familiar with any of them having a fundamental category, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, and hopefully our designation helped
get
that from
Yes.
Albemarle.
Oh, I promise I'll be sharing that information.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah,
work.
thank you all. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
There's more.
Okay, yes.
Going to try this side for a change. Two things before we get into what I have here on the screen highlighted for you. First, shout out to the Rose Hill Neighborhood Association for a great event this Saturday at Washington Park.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Appreciate that. Had a good time out there hanging out with folks, and had a few folks that took me up when I spoke to the group. If you want to come ask the city manager questions, I'll happily take them. So a few people took me up on that.
Oh, no.
They were nice, so they were really good. And they were good questions. They were really important questions as well. In addition to that, there have been questions that have come my way in regards to the Oaklawn property transaction. So I just wanted to add a little detail in regards to that particular matter. The UVA Board of Visitors approved on Friday a lease agreement with the city to take over the Oaklawn property under a lease with an intent to transfer that property at some point in the future. There's some work that has to be done. The city has stepped forward and said, yes, we will take that property. The transaction is tied to the idea that we will first prioritize schools as what we will use that site for. So we are going to begin that engagement as soon as we get the lease done. I confirmed today that the city attorney's office will be the point, Mr. Maddox will be the point on working with council, with the university for that particular transaction. And from that, we're also going to have our parks director and our deputy director of public works meet on site to do a walk through the property so that we can gain an understanding of the maintenance responsibilities that we are going to take on, of course, with taking on this property. And then we will start the feasibility analysis of what can become of the property. So we'll be working to get the lease done shortly, and then we'll get into planning the future of that site. So I just wanted to provide that clarity. A lot of folks have just asked the question of, is it going to the schools? Is it going to the city? It's actually coming to the city. The city would be the owner in addition to the property we own on that site, which is the middle school, the Boys and Girls Club site, and Smith Aquatic Center. So just want to clear that up. In addition, the last council meeting, as you all know, was a pretty contentious meeting in regards to managing of camping and an ordinance that was brought before you at your request for review. The conversation went where I imagined it would go, and I think ultimately, what's important for me to make sure that I do in this moment is let's make sure the facts are on the table about the work that the city is doing. I've heard from a number of people myself, and I know that you all have heard from a number of people because I get those too. And there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of questions, and a lot of requests that the city get up and do something. And I decided what was important for us to do is just to capture what have we been doing, what are we doing right now, what we continue to do as it relates to this issue. So what I thought I would do is present to you all, and this is now posted on the city manager's site, so anyone can go to that site as of now and take a look at this document, and council have provided you a copy without the highlights. I'm just going to touch on the things that are highlighted here. What you have is what I'm referring to as the city's homeless intervention plan by timeline. It's meant to just identify for you what we've been doing and how we've been doing that, and I'm framing it around the time period that since I've been the city manager. There's been a lot of work that's been going on in this space, but ideally just want to speak to you about what's happened in the past 2 years. What's happened in the past 2 years is, number one, we've identified a position that the city is taking as it relates to homelessness in this city, and for that we have decided that we're going to prioritize comprehensive delivery of services to ensure that any member in this community that's experiencing homelessness has a chance to access basic human needs and services. For that reason, and for that, we've identified a set of priorities, and those priorities are the things that you've heard us continually talk about and the things that we will continue to consider adding to if we feel the need to. Number one is a low-barrier year-round shelter facility. We need a family-focused shelter facility to ensure family units remain intact. We need a facility to service specific needs of seniors experiencing homelessness, which is a growing population by all accounts. We need to make sure that we are conducting an annual point-in-time count in the winter and the summer so that we can accurately measure what is happening in our community, because we know it is changing. We need to strengthen the capacity of the continuum of care, which this council has done in the FY26 budget, and probably look at additional ways for us to do that. And there is critical need for 24/7 detox and other emergency mental health beds in this city. So with that position, with that priority, just a little bit on what we've been doing. And again, framing it around the notion that this is in the past 2 years since I've been city manager. I started my tenure with focusing on a lot of conversations, and all those conversations, in every single one of them, there was a touch point on homelessness. And as was mentioned earlier, that has been consistent. It hasn't changed. I also wanted to just point out to you that I recognize that this became my issue when a decision that I made in September of 2023 to block enforcement in Market Street Park was met with what resulted in an encampment. Up to 40 individuals found themselves sleeping in the park overnight while we were investigating a claim that there were issues with our police department. And once we cleared that matter, we also moved to have the park emptied and resort back to our observing closing hours. That was all done with a soft touch approach in partnership between myself and the chief of police. I took that on myself and made sure that we were going to prioritize that we would get everything back to the normal order without arrests, and we were successful in getting that done. What I also did in that same month was ensure that we had an internal working group. So we had a 15-member work group, 12 different city departments and offices were brought together, and the goal was to advise me on ways that we can work as a city government to address this issue. We've continued to work on that, and from that, I developed what was a homeless intervention strategy that I presented to you at that time, identifying short-term, mid-term, and long-term actions that we could take, and that ultimately led to what I continued to work on over and over as we went forward. But the internal conversation with staff continued on ways that we can do things to interrupt this issue. It was also around that time that I tapped our economic development director to search for property listings for a space that we could actually acquire and make it possible for a low-barrier shelter. So that's how far back this conversation about a shelter goes. In addition to that, we moved into November. We had a conversation about adding a pod on site at the Salvation Army to allow us to help in the management of storing items that individuals experiencing homelessness were having. And that has continued to be there. That pod is there still today. The city is still paying for that, and it is being used. Our intervention division within the police department is still facilitating access for individuals to store things and to get those things as they need them. And we're going to continue to do that for as long as we can. And if we have to find another place, we'll do that as well. In December of 2023, I actually had the economic development director bring me what results he had on available properties. We worked through that list and nothing was recognized as viable. So I basically sent him back and told him to keep looking because we weren't going to stop looking and try to figure out what we could do. In January of 2024, I started the conversation with our regional peers. I had the ability for that conversation to begin about getting all of our county peers around us to come back together. And in doing that, everyone did their check-in on what's going on in your area, what's your top priority, and I led with homelessness as ours, pointing out to them that this was our problem, not Charlottesville's problem, and I continue to remind them, and they will tell you that he has said that to us repeatedly. In February of 2024, I spoke at Rotary That was my introductory conversation with them, and it just so happened that the major at the Salvation Army was in the audience, and shortly thereafter he reached out and said, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about a low-barrier shelter, and that is where the Cherry Avenue thrift store concept came from. That conversation was simply, I would like to see if there's a way for the Salvation Army to help. We didn't know exactly what that meant, but there was a conversation about the thrift store could be the location if we could figure out how to make that work, and that is when we started the conversation. In March, I brought to the City Council an opportunity to acquire the Avon Levy site. I brought it forward with no plan, no specific plan for redevelopment, but it was about gaining control of a site where we could make a difference in what is needed in this space. And as we've heard today, affordable housing being the priority. No guarantee exactly as to what that was, but the last part of what's highlighted there is once clarity is reached with the planned development projects in various stages of design. That is what my focus has been. I would like the city to consider building what is needed based on what we know the gaps still continue, what we still continue to see as gaps. So I think we're close to being able to figure that out, and you'll see that come up later. In May of 2024, I asked Deputy City Manager Marshall to coordinate the first State of the Homeless presentation to Council with the intent that that would become an annual presentation, of which it has now become. Later in that month, there was also a city-county leaders visit to Harrisonburg-Rockingham County's new homelessness receiving center to give us some ideas and inspiration of what could be done. In June, the presentation by the group of providers occurred. And in July, the mayor and myself met with the Pacham Board of Directors to discuss the city's interest in establishing a low-barrier shelter in partnership with the Salvation Army, with an invitation for Pacham to join in considering how to do that, with the request that they consider an operations plan being produced. And we're waiting for that. September 2024, I also sat down with the Salvation Army and said to them the same thing. If you are interested in proposing an operations plan for running a low-barrier shelter and you can gain permission to do so, we invite you to produce an operations plan and bring that forward. Next slide, Remy. I know you're managing this for me. Thank you. Where are we? In December of later that year, in December, the city contributed $3 million to the Salvation Army Center for Hope capital campaign. And that was in recognition of increasing the number of beds from 55 units to 114 overnight shelter bed units, expanding the dining room, and additional enhancements to that facility. So we did that, and that is actual contribution that's been made. Mayor Wade and Vice Mayor Pinkston went to the Fifield Neighborhood Association to discuss the low-barrier shelter being proposed at 504 Cherry. They were met with a lot of discussion and opinion as to why that may not be a good idea. In January, I went and heard the same story. I went back later in March and had further conversation, but we talked about homelessness more broadly. We brought BRAC, Pacham, The Haven, and the Salvation Army to help answer questions. And that was an opportunity for us to really, really get into a robust conversation about what it's going to take to address homelessness in this community. And a lot of the conversation has been focused on what I have repeatedly said over and over and will say again today. This is our problem. This is the entire city's problem. We must address it. It is not the people that is the problem. It is what we have to focus on to address their needs. And I continue to remind everyone that it will take all of us figuring out different ways that we can support that, and that is also being uncomfortable, and that is something we can't forget. Council adopted its FY26 budget in April of 2025 with serious commitments to improving the capacity of the COC, our continuum of care, meaning BRAC as a fundamental agency, in addition to adding $500,000 a year to help operate a low-barrier shelter whenever someone agrees to do it and whenever we have a place to do it in, and up to $1 million in offsetting losses should it be the Cherry Avenue thrift store. We also in May met with our homeless providers to talk about the state of homelessness again. They came before council and presented what's going on at this point in time, and we continue to work on trying to answer questions about that location, Cherry Avenue location, or any other location. In June, myself and Deputy City Manager Freeze engaged the CRHA Executive Director in looking at vacant CRHA-owned property for possible temporary shelter and emergency housing options. We've looked at that as a way to try to figure out, can we bring that village concept that has been pitched to you as well by me as a way to add a different set of housing opportunities, and we continue to have that conversation going at this time. All right, Remy, next slide. One more. There we go. I also requested from CRHA information in regards to the Crossings 2 project that was originally proposed at the Avon Levy site, to give us a chance to take a look at, is that the project that we should begin to consider at this time? And that is in reference to the comment that I made earlier about looking at what the needs are after we start to see projects jump off the design board onto the development board. So with Vista 29 starting, with the expansion of the Ridge Street Shelter for the Salvation Army, with other development projects coming along with greater detail, all of what's happening with CRHA, Park Street, MACA, Kindlewood, all the different places where we are adding additional units. The question that I'm posing to us at this time is, and still, what is missing? And the idea is that there could possibly be a need for additional housing, and I'm just interested in taking a look at the Crossings project because I wasn't here when that was proposed. This month, City Council heard significant opposition to considering an anti-camping and storage ordinance, and Council decided to pull the item and not vote. And with that, gave a directive that we must find a place for alternative locations for anyone that we would ask to move. And I've continued to work on that, and as you see, I've been working on that since October of '23 because I knew that we had to. I also reached out to Mr. Sales and asked him to really take that tiny village concept forward, and we are going to go on a site visit and take a look at what options might exist at that point. I also toured a potential facility for acquisition. Property remains of interest. There is no active negotiation at this time, but the city will continue to look at what options exist, and we will continue to look for property. We're not going to stop. Mr. Engel is going to continue to look for what is available, and the goal is for us to be able to find what makes sense for this city to invest in, and ultimately recognizing that whatever we attempt to buy is going to require an upfit, and that is a significant outlay of cash, and that is what the biggest concern has been about simply buying a space, because you don't just buy a space and shove people into it. We have to invest in that space for being what we need it to be. Also on Friday, this past Friday, myself and Deputy City Manager Freeze joined Senator Creed Deeds on a tour of Caritas. It's a nonprofit operator of a multi-tier facility in Richmond. It is focused on shelter, recovery support, education, employment, and most importantly, hope. It is a model replicated on work that was done in Louisville, Kentucky. It would be ideal for me to be able to send another contingent back to tour Caritas, spending time with them to ask 1,000,001 questions, led by Ms. Marshall. And as soon as we feel like we have the ability to see if we can do what they were able to do, then we will actually facilitate that particular visit. So I lastly just want to point out that we have continued to work internally on this issue. This is not a dead issue for us. This is not something that we're not talking about. We're looking at it from every angle. I just want the public to appreciate the idea that this is not something that we are missing, we're not caring about, we're not understanding. We are continually looking at ways that we can work on this, and I just wanted to make sure that council and the public heard that from me specifically. I also want to point out that the capital campaign that's been initiated by the Salvation Army today is not at 50% complete. I think it is important for the public to hear that we need to get that capital campaign closed, because a Hope Has a Place capital campaign brings that many more beds for individuals who are unhoused, a bigger dining room, and additional services that will meet the needs that we have in this community, along with all the other things that we're talking about. So I'll stop there and allow you to ask any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Michael, you want to start?
Well, we've talked about this quite a lot, and I know we'll continue to talk about it going forward. So I don't have questions, but just a few comments. I mean, I think you mentioned it, but I think it's worth highlighting for the community the Vista 29, formerly Premier Circle project, which is set to be finished by the end of 2026 and have 80 units for people who are homeless to be able to move out of homelessness. And essentially that became what was Crossings 2.
Right.
And the city's invested a significant amount of money in that project, and that's going to have a huge impact to have 80 units for people to move out of homelessness into permanent supportive housing. We probably still need a Crossings 3, but that's really important. You touched on as well, but just on the prevention side, that the city has FY 2022, the Pathways Fund was less than $100,000. It's over $1 million now, and to provide emergency money for people who may be facing eviction if they can't make rent that month. Likewise, we've invested money in eviction prevention, fundamental agencies, including Shelter for Help and Emergency and Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless being added there, and that being done in a way to increase the total amount of funding available for nonprofit funding in the city. I just say all of that to say, you highlighted them, but there's a lot we've done, and the commitment is there, but there's a lot more we need to do, particularly building a permanent year-round low-barrier shelter, and likely even after Vista 29, more permanent supportive housing. And I know you highlighted those, but to me, those are still the number one and number two priorities. Until we have those, the impact will be marginal.
Sure. Yep. And I would also just indicate, because I could imagine what she's thinking over there, and we don't really believe a guarantee of everyone who goes into Vista 29 will actually be formerly homeless. So that may not reach as many, it may not be 80 people off the street that actually live there. And I think that is kind of the point that we're making. There is still more that is needed, because that isn't going to capture all of them. And we're going to have to keep thinking about that for the volume of individuals facing that today.
Yeah. Do we know exactly how many units are project-based vouchers for people exiting homelessness?
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't know that myself, but we can find out. I know we have that because our housing team has it. I just don't have it. Yeah.
Natalie, did you have any questions?
It's always good to see everything in a timeline like this,
That's what I
because
thought.
it's hard to keep track of it all. So thank you for giving the timeline to us and to the public, so they do know that there's work being done behind the scenes, and in front of the scenes too. But
Just trying to make sure it's out in front, because I know a lot of people don't know that, and it's
yeah,
just
and
really
we
meant to
do
make it
get
clear.
emails that
Yes.
people tune into a short part of what we do and ask, well, what are you doing? And so it's good to be able to point to something and say, this is what's going on. So I know that's part of why you did this, but it's also good and helpful for us to know, because I wasn't here for all of this either.
Sure.
So thank you. And I like that we were able to use some of our money from the feds towards the Salvation Army project, so that it didn't get taken away. I thought that was a good use of that dollars. I'm still hesitant to be enthusiastic about a kind of tiny village situation, because I still don't know if the evidence doesn't seem like the ROI is as good as if we put those dollars somewhere else. I do appreciate the fact that it is housing now, which, housing first is the best way to get people in housing. But that just, they're so expensive. I'm gonna take a little more convincing to spend our money on that.
We have work to do before we bring anything forward, but yes.
Yeah. And hopefully, there's still a big hole, which is a low barrier shelter and an overnight shelter year round. So even though we've done a lot of work, and we have Vista 29 coming on board, there is that big hole. So hopefully we'll be able to fill that soon and have good news for the community. As I mentioned in the last meeting, we have that momentum clearly with all of the feedback we've been getting. And so when something comes up that we're gonna need to spend our money on, I hope that momentum stays, because that is how we get things done, is spending money. That's our tool. So this is a priority that the community has clearly outlined as a priority, and so it's up to us to make sure that we fund that and make good decisions with the money that they've given us. Thank you.
Okay. Brian?
No comments, a great list, thank you.
Lloyd?
Yeah, I'm glad to have it set down in one document, and timelines and numbers of beds coming online at certain times and so on. We know that we as council and you as city manager have been working on these plans for some time. One of the problems I think we have from a PR standpoint is that it's rarely useful to talk about half-made plans. And we've had a lot of half-made plans over the last year and a half. And in some cases, the reason why the plans are only half-made and not fully executed or even executable, it comes down to difficulties in working things out with some of our nonprofit partners. And one of the things that I hope we will be able to do in the next year or so, as we hopefully find a location that we can then get the nonprofit partners working on the same sheet of music to be able to do things that they do better than we would do them. But we've got to have agreement on what that plan is. And so it's going to take more than just council and more than just the city manager to do that. Your comment about it being the entire community's problem, that entire community includes the nonprofits, it includes the county, it includes a lot of other folks who aren't literally in this room tonight. And it will be a challenge for you to get all of the cats marching in the same direction at the same time.
It is a challenge and will continue to be a challenge, but challenge nonetheless.
We will get there.
We got it. Yep.
Yeah, so Lloyd, are you done, sir?
Yes.
So I want to thank everyone for their comments and you and your staff, because, I often have to respond for council with those many emails that we get. And oftentimes I tell them that it's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't have a conversation or something with Sam about what are we doing, what about this, and so this here document shows just a part of, doesn't even count like the countless meetings and emails. And so
it could be a lot longer.
Yeah, I've seen you in meetings really push our nonprofits for commitment, for partnership. But this is difficult work that we're doing, and has many. There's no one solution for it, but I want to thank you and your staff for doing it. Did you have something else you want to get to, Michael?
Yeah, just quickly to piggyback off that and highlighting something you said as well, is if the community expects this to be something where it's city government solve this, that's not going to work. The city government is going to have to play a necessary, very important role, but we're going to need foundations, we're going to need private philanthropy, we're going to need rich individuals in our community to help build out a permanent year-round homeless shelter. And we're going to need all our nonprofits to be able to coordinate and work together. And historically, there's a lot of competition and ill will among the nonprofit space, and that's also going to have to change. I just appreciate that point and hope the community understands it as well. City government is literally unable to do this alone. We just can't. If you expect us to do it alone, we can't.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next item we're now in the action items, and the first one is a public hearing for a resolution to approve an exercise of eminent domain for the acquisition of right-of-way and easement and service to the East High Street streetscape. Mr. Cooper? Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wade, City Council members, City Manager Sanders. This action item, as mentioned, is for the East High Streetscape project. I'm Lee Cooper, by the way, Project Manager for the Capital Development Division. We are currently at obtaining 23 out of the 26 parcels. The 3 parcels being presented tonight are the 3 remaining that will fulfill the right-of-way task for the East High Streetscape project. The 3 parcels listed are 2 owned by East Jefferson Assemblage LLC. Those are parcels 3 and 26 listed in the packet. The other parcel is MWPC Properties LLC and IRR Properties LLC, and that is parcel 32. They're owned by the same entity, just 2-3 different names there for ownership designation. These 3 parcels are including some permanent easements, utility easements, and some fee right-of-way acquisition along the strip there of East High. We have been dealing with this property owner for quite a while with no agreement, and the city staff is recommending council exercise the procedure to go to eminent domain.
Okay. So before I open up the public hearing, were you finished, sir?
Yes, yes.
Before I'll ask any clarification questions, Lloyd, I'll start with you.
I don't have any clarification questions. I've been to the site.
I'm good.
Okay. Natalie?
No, Michael, go ahead.
So, did any of the landowners have specific concerns that they raised? Was it just non-responses, or were there very specific concerns they raised?
Yeah, these are, we had three parcels back in May, if you recall. We came to an agreement on one of those. It's more or less value. This particular landowner on parcel 32, his main concern is a Dominion utility easement that's going near his property. And that's the only real concern he had. No real concern about the project itself. It's just the impacts to his particular property there with the utility easement.
Was there a specific concern that could block access, or was it?
His concern was the new zoning code about building closer to the right-of-way line, setback areas, stuff of that nature. So he was
It
worried
could
about
limit
that.
his development
Yes,
potential?
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I had no questions, so I will now open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this? If not, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Yeah, if I can find it. I'm happy to move the resolution. On page 46 of the packet, a resolution authorizing the acquisition for public purposes by purchase or condemnation of real property for the East High Streetscape project. There's 3 parcels mentioned in the Exhibit A, 003, 026, and 032.
Second.
So,
I didn't get yours, Mayor Wayne. Did you save it? Is it a yes?
yes,
Okay,
no,
it's just
it's coming now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. The next item on the agenda is a resolution considering 1114 East High Street, a street special exception permit amendment. And Mr. Kobe?
Good evening, Council. Yeah, I'm Ben Kobe. I'm a planner with Neighborhood Development Services here at the City of Charlottesville, and today this evening, we are meeting to discuss a request for a special exception for the Build 2 requirements and the transition screening requirements, for 1114 East High Street. This did run by you guys in April, only for the Build 2 requirement for special exception consideration, and was approved. However, through further development review, this transition screening sort of did come up as a part of something that the applicant is trying to have amended. And as a part of that, special exceptions may be amended as they go through, they will be amended as if it was a brand new application. So that's what brings us back here today. So you can go to the next slide.
It's over here, Ben.
Over there.
Oh, we got it. He's changing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back.
Maybe we should get 2 of those.
Oh, okay.
All right, so yeah, this parcel at 1114 East High Street is zoned CX5. Its future land use designation is that of an urban mixed-use corridor, and this is all for the purposes of allowing a workshop space to be constructed behind the existing structure on East High Street, and the purpose for carpentry and construction of cabinetry. So therefore, to build it where the applicant wants it to be, the special exception is required to sort of meet the development goals of the applicant. You can go to the next slide. I guess I have the clicker now too, so. So what that really will entail is the Build 2 requirement to reiterate from April that any building in the CX5 zoning district must be built between 0 to 10 feet from the front property line and must be take up 75% of that Build 2 width within that 0 to 10 feet. So ultimately, the intent of that is to create a convenient, attractive, and harmonious community by regulating the placement of buildings along the public realm so that buildings frame the public realm with a consistent pattern of development. So what it really looks like on the parcel right now is there is an existing structure out there. It's definitely outside of that 0 to 10 foot Build 2 zone and is short, probably about 40% currently of the Build 2 requirement is being met. So on both counts, the existing structure isn't really making that requirement, bringing the site into non-conformity. You can go to the next slide, or let me take the lead. All right. Great. Additionally, since the subject parcel, Zone CX5, does have direct abutment on an RA zoned parcel, there's a Type C transition screen requirement. This wasn't identified when we came through for the special exception initially. So that's part of what's bringing us back here today. The transition Type C requirement is that of a 20-foot building setback for the proposed structure and a moderate transition screening type. There are two options for a transition or moderate transition screening type: that of an 8-foot wide screening area with a planting of 2 large trees and a 6-foot fence, or a 10-foot depth of the screening area with 2 large trees and no fencing requirement. So ultimately what's being requested here is that the structure be allowed to be built outside of the Build 2 zone, and that the existing structure being outside of the Build 2 width requirements, non-conforming in that way. So there is the Build 2 requirement being requested, pretty much fully waiving that requirement to allow for the building in the rear. And the transition screening type to be reduced from a 20-foot building setback to a 5-foot setback from that property line, and reduce the screening depth from 8 feet to 5 feet. And that the applicant was requesting that, in that area, there would be no trees planted, so there was the request to bring that from 2 trees to 0 trees. So here's what the proposal is there. The existing structure there on East High Street isn't shown, but that's where the workshop space would be. In the rear, there is that parking area. You can see some renderings there and what the interior is going to look like. So yeah, ultimately, that's what's being requested. So considering, the approval criteria for the special exception, we'll sort of go point by point because there are 2 components to this. But the first criteria to be considered for a special exception permit is that whether the proposed modifications to physical dimensional standards will be harmonious with the existing patterns of development on the same or opposing block face abutting the property. So in consideration of that, we'll start with the Build 2 criteria. And since April was a while ago, I'll go back into depth. The streetscape along East High Street is, it is fairly uniform in that section where those are these old residential residences that have been converted to offices in that stretch. As proposed, the existing streetscape would remain largely unaltered if the building is allowed to be built off the rear of it. So that does conflict partially with some of the goals of the comprehensive plan to bring structures towards the street to create that sort of harmonious and cohesive streetscape. That's it does speak to regular development and consistency, but there already is sort of that consistency out there already. So considering that, I think it would be appropriate to, at least in the Build 2 context, to reapprove that portion of the special exception, since there is already a relatively cohesive streetscape, then that would be meeting that criteria there. Moving into the transition screening requirement, I think it's important to note that the comprehensive plan does speak to that. Sorry, maybe I am getting a little ahead of myself here. Reducing the building setback from 20 feet to 5 feet will obviously allow for that structure to be close to that property line. But considering the constraints on the parcel with the existing parking lot, having that 20-foot setback per the applicant would not be conducive to this development. And it's worth considering that this light industrial use is permitted by right in the CX5 zoning district. So there's not necessarily a concern from a use perspective, but it would be, the modification to that screening requirement. Moving the building into the parking spaces, it's a non-starter. Moving into criteria 2, that whether or not the proposed modification supports the goals and strategies of the comprehensive plan. In terms of the Build 2 standard, I already spoke to it a little bit, in that the comprehensive plan does speak to setting building setbacks to be appropriate with the site and context to increase network connectivity, create more pedestrian-friendly streetscape, and reduce speeds on high-volume roadways across the city. Additionally, there is some consideration to a reduction of the front set and side yard building setbacks as a part of Comprehensive Plan Chapter 4, Goal 2.4, in support of the designation of the entire city as an urban development area. So considering those two, like I sort of started speaking to, it does speak to existing streetscapes, and it does sort of, these criteria do value site-specific considerations where it's not a green field that we're building in. There is that existing streetscape there. So I either, to meet the Build 2 requirement as it's written would either be to, require him to build that structure in front of the existing office space there, or create an addition off the front of that building there. It doesn't really seem, especially given the topography on the site, in which there is from the road a pretty steep elevation towards the existing structure. With those things considered, I think, requiring anything to be built in the front doesn't really seem reasonable to me. So in that consideration, I think that a special exception to the Build 2 is warranted in that way. Considering the transition screening, it is important to note that the comprehensive plan, definitely does speak to the comprehensive plan, and the development code, speaks to the importance of transition screening to protect residences from potential adverse impacts of commercial development. So there's no skirting around that. But again, sort of those goals of the comprehensive plan do also speak to site-specific considerations, and development-specific considerations as well. So considering the fact that the proposed structure, I'll take us back as well so we can look at it a little bit. None of the building's openings are going to be facing towards the existing fence that it does exist right now between the office space and the residence on Merriweather. So they are meeting their, it is important to note that. There is an existing fence there that is sort of meeting part of their transition screening requirements, and we're recommending a condition that the fence does maintain. Currently, I believe it's owned by the residents, but speaking with the applicant, they're willing to, if that fence does go away for whatever reason, replace that and maintain it in good stead. But all of the building's openings will be facing away from the residents. It'll be a blank wall behind the existing fence. So any noise of construction, any deliveries, would be sort of buffered by the building itself. I think it does lend itself to towards considering approval in that way.
Could you go back to the slide that summarized?
This one?
Yeah. Do you still have more, I guess, on your list?
I'm wrapping up.
Okay.
Okay. But ultimately, and moving into the final criterion, which is whether with any conditions, the special exception would be consistent with the public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice. We are, as a part of this, staff and planning commission are recommending that the workshop space be limited to 1 story in height. that the existing fence be preserved and maintained in good stead, and that those 2 trees that would have been required as part of that transition screen be planted elsewhere on the site, just to sort of make sure that they are somewhere on site. So with those criteria, I think, I think it's fine to say that, Planning Commission recommended approval on this with these conditions unanimously, and staff is recommending approval as well.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that presentation. It's very helpful. So in your assessment, those 4 items are reasonable and you'd recommend them, and the Planning Commission has done the same?
Correct.
Okay. They seem eminently reasonable to me.
Yep. Thank you. Natalie, did you have a question or comment on this?
Yeah, does the, has the applicant been involved in those and is okay with them?
Yeah, I mean,
conditions?
these came out at Planning Commission, and I'm sure Mike give me the thumbs up there that, yes, all those conditions
for the record.
seem reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, I would also note that it's not inconsistent with the neighborhood in general. There's another backyard workshop just down Meriwether Street, so it's added layer of consistency there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael, have any questions or comments?
No, I think as you outline, the requirements make sense for greenfield development or tearing down and complete new construction, but I think a special exception permit in a case like this is completely warranted and it's pretty straightforward and making sense, so, I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you. Lloyd, do you have anything?
I was curious, when did it become apparent that there was a 20-foot building setback that had to be complied with?
Sure.
'Cause, I mean, I was out there, I mean, the base is built.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's a theoretical problem.
Right.
Well,
So.
we approved that in the spring, right?
Sorry?
We approved that piece in the spring, correct?
Including the setback?
Yeah.
Well, there
That
was.
was the piece we approved, I think.
Well, we didn't consider the, that 20-foot separation when we first came through, so, this special exception permit and the development plan review sort of did happen simultaneously. This came through first, just based on how the timelines worked out. So the transition screen had not yet been identified, and so as that process went on, that became identified, and, so in that process, a building permit was, actually, Matt, if you can speak to that timeline a little bit.
Yeah, Matt Alfley, I'm the Development Planning Manager at NDS. So originally, when the application was submitted, it was with the SEP, Special Exception Permit, and the Development Review application, which are 2 separate applications. And so when you heard this before, it was for the Special Exception Permit for the Build 2, which was the request. During the Development Review process, this other issue was identified. And so the applicant is coming back because that came out of the development review process. The applicant has been working with the building official to try to keep the project moving forward while this issue is being resolved, along with another issue with the development review plan that's being resolved with fire. So when this issue gets resolved and the issue with fire gets resolved, the development plan can be approved. Staff is currently actually working on making sure this has been part of our learning process. Staff is moving forward with some changes that will require an applicant to go through 1 round of development review or final site plan review before they request any special exception permits, so that we're able, staff, to gather all the relevant requests and bring them forward at once.
I mean, the purpose of my question was not to accuse anybody of doing anything improper, but to suggest, it sounds like you're already thinking about this, that to have gotten through this stage without it having been identified as a problem before that is as much a problem on the city's review side as it is on the part of the applicant.
Correct, Counselor. We have been highly recommending applicants do a round of development review before they request any special exception permits, but this is a good kind of learning opportunity while we are going to require it moving forward.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions or comment?
So the resolution we have is this paper copy, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's the revised, the one that was in the packet, I believe had some corrections that were needed, so we've provided online the clean copy or the new updated copy, as well as paper copy for you.
I'm happy to move this.
Thank you.
Okay. Move the resolution approving a approving a special exception permit amendment for property located at 1114 East High Street. I'm not going to read all this. Whereas Lucky Balls Juggler Training Camp, the landowner, is the current owner of this property, whereas the landowner proposes to modify pieces of this, whereas the Planning Commission made a recommendation of approval at its August 26, 2025 public meeting, subject to the following conditions. The size, location, and use will be consistent with the materials and application PL-25-0038 and PL-25-0041, both dated August 12, 2025. Number two, 2 large trees shall be provided on the subject property in accordance with section 34-4.7 transition screening. However, placement of these trees is not required between the studio workshop and the property line. Number 3, a minimum 6-foot fence, existing or future, shall be provided between the studio workshop and the property line, and fence shall be maintained and kept in good repair, and 4, the studio workshop shall not exceed 14 feet 5 inches in height. I wanted to just read that since we didn't. So I move this resolution.
Second.
Quickly, if I may, I think, well, Planning Commission recommended a condition, the condition be that the workshop be limited to 1 story in height and not tie a foot measurement to it. That might not be represented there, so.
That's not what we have.
Right.
So,
Sam, what do you?
I was just going to note that, first of all, so you've made the motion?
I've made the motion.
Has it been seconded?
Michael
Okay.
seconded.
I mean, just to comment, I prefer the 14 feet 5 inches to 1 story, because 1 story can mean a lot of different things.
This is
14.5 is.
clear enough to work with.
Yes. So.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay, great. It's democracy in action.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved properly second. Further discussion?
Nope.
If not, can we vote? Always have to bring those back up. All right, the motion passes 5-0. All right, Mike. Thank you. Thank you all so much for working on this. The next item on the agenda is a resolution appropriating community flood preparedness funds grant award in the amount of $400,000. Crystal?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Wade, Council. My name's Crystal Rittervold. I'm the Director of the Office of Sustainability. City Manager requested that I bring before you a little bit of information about a recent grant award notification. And I am going to get the clicker. Talk through what, I think the slides are in your packet. Oh yeah, here they are. Let's see what our driver is doing.
He's going to have to do it.
Okay. Okay. So just I want to provide a little bit of background on this funding source. The Virginia Community Flood Preparedness Fund was established through the 2020 session of the General Assembly. And the purpose of the funding is to support regions and localities to reduce the impacts of flooding. It's a fund that's operated by DCR and it's managed by the Virginia Resource Authority. And it essentially provides grants and loans for both what they call capacity building and then projects itself. We can go to the next slide, please. One thing I wanted to share and make sure is in our awareness is that this Community Flood Preparedness Fund is actually funded by proceeds from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And so we know that acronym RGGI It's a market-based cap-and-trade program that's designed to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from the power sector. And as you can see, this is a quarterly auction cycle. You can see how the funds, the revenues are split between low-income energy efficiency programs and flood preparedness work. Virginia has been participating in RGGI since a 2020 piece of legislation. There were actually 3 years of auctions that generated over $800 million worth of funding. Currently, the state has pulled us out of this regional cap and trade market. That administration is the action of an ongoing lawsuit, and so as of January 2024, Virginia is no longer participating, but there are funds in this funding program. And so if you can go to the next slide, please. There have been a number of rounds of funding. Actually, I'm jumping ahead. Here you can see several planning efforts either completed or underway, from the comp plan to the hazard mitigation plan, the current Resilient Together work that is responding to the climate-driven risks that have been identified for this region, including increased flooding potential hazards. We have a 2023 flood resilience plan that was accepted by DCR, and I think there's a recognition amongst interdepartmental team that that plan really needs to be activated. And you will in the future be hearing about an updated or an environmental regulations and policy review project that is also going to contemplate floodplain management in the suite of water resources and other environmental topics. So there are a lot of things that have happened and that are in the works that are related to this topic. So we convened an interdepartmental team for a series of conversations around the state of floodplain management, and there was a recognition that if there was a funding opportunity to provide some added capacity, that would be an appealing thing to do. So if we can go to the next slide, please. This is the 5th round of funding, and we have actually been successful in 3 previous grant applications. The first one in September 21 provided funding to do stormwater modeling for the Moores Creek watershed. We then got funding to do the flood resilience plan, and then the latest round had been to complete the stormwater models for Meadow Creek and the Rivanna River. That project is nearly complete. The first one is complete. And then in July, we were notified of successful application to the tune of $360,000 to do capacity building and an update to that flood resilience plan. The graphic here, I'm sorry?
While you're on this page, I don't know if you're about to go on to the next one, but I'm curious, the Moores Creek watershed model, September 2021, was that when it was awarded, or was that
That's
when
when
the
it was
work was
awarded.
done? Has the work been done?
That one just recently got completed.
Okay, because I remember we had a Moores Creek watershed issue back in February of 2021, and people were saying, well, we've got this proposal that's coming, and in any case, now 4 years later, and hopefully we're now going to get an answer.
I hope so.
What's the expectation with the timing on the Meadow Creek and Rivanna River watersheds?
It's my understanding, so the Utilities Department is leading that project through the Water Resources Group, and I think the latest I heard is that towards end October, they'll have that work completed.
Like in the next 30 days then? Oh, cool, okay, thank you.
And I think this graphic is really awesome to see how much of that flood preparedness fund has been distributed around the Commonwealth. So flooding concerns are not just a coastal issue. There's a lot of inland flooding, especially in older inland communities with restricted systems. So if we can go to the next slide, I will share with you that this project, we called it the Program Review and the Flood Resilience Plan Update. It falls in that category of capacity building and planning, and really there's a recognition that there are a number of unanswered questions about, are we doing kind of best in class as a program? And so the amount awarded would be $360,000 with a local match of $40,000. There's a 3-year project completion horizon that we're aiming for. I think it's a 5-year limit. But as you see here, it's an opportunity to review what is our program doing, can we do a gap analysis of what there is? Let's review the roles and responsibilities, identify best practices, and see which of those are applicable to Charlottesville. Integrate these updated stormwater models, take a look at the plans and policies that we have all over the place related to this topic, review and prioritize the identified flood mitigation projects, figure out a funding and execution plan, really speak about preparedness and communication. This is overlap in the emergency management realm, friends in the audience, and then develop these proactive initiatives to consider flooding challenge resulting from climate change. So at the next slide, you'll see that the next steps would be to appropriate the grant funding with the resolution in front of you tonight, execute the grant agreement when that comes in, develop the scope of work, secure consultant services, and then pull Team Charlottesville together to work through what we would like to see get done with this funding. And the next slide basically invites you to ask questions.
I'm curious, is the picture on page 89 of our Rivanna?
It is, yes.
Thought so.
And there's another picture that I think is
The next page is a little
River
more obvious.
Road and,
Yeah.
yeah. We used real local pictures, not stock photography.
Well, people keep saying, oh, the Rivanna doesn't flood anymore. We've got these dams up there.
Oh, we've seen it flood.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, thank you.
Any other questions?
So,
She said thank you, and I said thank you.
is the end of this process going to result in policy changes at the city level, or ordinances or recommendations that come to city council for votes?
TBD. I mean, I think that when we do a gap analysis and we try to see what the best practices out there, it will include a review of our floodplain regulations, and it will see whether there are recommendations to be considered by the elected body.
Right, because I think that's where we have to go. I mean, you talked about the need to activate these plans, not just have them. And I know it's been years at this point that we've known by national standards, our existing flood regulations have the lowest score possible on national standards, so we're nowhere near. So I just think we have to, I hope we get there, I think we have to get there. In all our hazard and emergency planning documents, extreme flooding is listed as our biggest risk. We've had multiple people die just this past spring and summer from flooding. And I think it's really just a matter of when a tropical storm or hurricane takes a path through central Virginia. And
Again,
and if we haven't been smart about our regulations and been as strategic as we can about how to treat impervious surfaces, I think we'll just have a lot of regrets in that moment.
Yeah.
when were these photos from? Do you know?
I don't have those dates memorized. They were within the last 5 years, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I would just, the other comment I would just say is, like, I think we are really recognizing that a culture of preparedness is really a right sort of shift. And there's a lot of evidence out there that, you know, investing in preparedness and prevention and mitigation at the front end, while costly, is a lot less costly than dealing with disaster and recovery. And we see peer communities that have dealt with that.
Okay. So, did we want to put this on the consent agenda in October 6th?
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is resolution authorizing the city's participation in the proposed settlement of the opiate-related claims against Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hipma, and the other ones.
These are all also IKEA pieces of furniture.
Councilmember, that's exactly what I thought as I was writing this, but good evening.
A little more
My name is
serious than
Ashley
that.
Reynolds Marshall. I serve as the Deputy City Manager for Social Equity, and I'm with you all today to talk about settlements from all those IKEA pieces of furniture. So, just by way of giving a quick background, in 2021, City Council approved the Virginia Opioid Abatement Fund and Settlement Allocation Memorandum of Understanding. And what that step really meant is that Charlottesville did not need to file its own lawsuit in all of the work that was going on due to the opioid use crisis. It allowed us to engage in a statewide process and receive our share of the settlement funds, and that statewide process is led by the Attorney General's office. Since then, we have benefited from those national settlements with large distributors, manufacturers, and retail pharmacies. As shown on the slide, that is an estimated total of the entire amount of funding that we received, so about $1.5 million from all of those particular ways that we can receive that money, which is through direct distribution from settlements, which is what we are talking about today, as well as through some additional funding from the Opioid Abatement Authority, which is what Virginia set up as part of its processes. So there are some additional settlements that are now available with 7 more manufacturers: Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Himica, Endeavor, Milan, Sun, and Zydus, which very much sounds like a Greek mythology character. That total settlement nationwide is going to be about $720 million from all of those parties, which is most likely one of the reasons why they joined them together. And we do know that Virginia will receive about $16.4 million of that funding. That funding will go into the Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority, and then it will be also allocated to the city. So Virginia will get some funding that we can then apply for. We will receive some directly to our coffers, but I do not know how much our share will be at this time. The funds are still restricted for opioid remediation, prevention, and recovery efforts, but participation in this requires local council authorization, which is why I'm before you today. So our next steps are pretty straightforward. My request is that you approve Charlottesville's participation in these new settlements and authorize the city attorney or outside counsel, if we needed that, which we do not, to sign the necessary documents. This is consistent with our past approvals under the 2021 MOU, and it ensures that Charlottesville continues to receive funding to address the local impacts of the opioid epidemic. May I answer any questions for you all?
Lloyd, do you have any questions?
Yeah, your slide there showed $1.5 million to be received over 20 years. Have we received any money from it so far?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
How much?
We have received, of course, you asked that, and it disappears. I was just looking at in SAP today. We have about roughly $400,000 from the direct settlements, and then we have applied for 3 projects where we have received funding for 2 of them. I'm waiting for funding for 1 of them from the Opioid Abatement Authority. And that ranged from, in FY25, the largest request for funding that I asked for was about $27,000. And the smallest was about $12,000. So that is for our city naloxone project, where we will be buying doses of naloxone for city, not only city staff, if they so choose to carry it, but every bloodborne pathogens box in any city facility will have doses there, and they will be replaced as used. It is to help provide a NECC clinician to help support individuals who may be calling in crisis. That is co-funded by Albemarle County as well, and it is for the Albemarle Regional Jail project, where we are piloting with them the ability for city residents who find themselves incarcerated and having an opioid use disorder to receive injections of Suboxone, which lasts for 30 days versus our normal medicated treatment, which you have to go get every day. Our hope is that it only stabilizes them while they may happen to be in the regional jail facility, but our real goal is that those individuals leave incarceration with some stabilization. It's possible they may have received the shot the day before. It's possible they still may have a week or two, but that's one less thing to worry about when you're rejoining your community. So that's some of the funding that we have spent thus far.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on?
I know that the names are silly, but it's a serious matter, and I appreciate that we're doing what we can with the money that we get, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the impacts you've outlined are great. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course, and we are also continuing to look for other ways to ensure that we are utilizing this funding in the best way possible, given that it is, if we think about it, not a lot of money, but we're hoping that the projects that we propose have a really big impact. So there's one we're still working on, but when it's ready, you all will know about it, and as long as it goes through, I'm really excited about it.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks.
Great.
I do have a question. This one is listed as one of 2 readings, and I want to clarify whether it does actually require 2.
You beat me to it.
Okay.
As this is a resolution not appropriating funds, only a single reading is required.
Okay.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second, okay. Can we vote?
I need just a moment to mark that.
Okay.
That was moved by Natalie?
Yes.
Okay. Initiated the vote?
Thank you. We're now at the general business for discussion legislative agenda, part 1.
All right, so that's me, just a basic introduction. Remy, if you would pull up the packet again, there are 3 attachments towards the end, and we'll just kind of thumb through them. Councilors and members of the public, this item is a 2-parter. For this meeting this evening, you have 3 sets of recommendations that were submitted by the Human Rights Commission, the Planning Commission, and your Office of Sustainability. The intention that I had was to not have you trying to consider a whole bunch of agenda items for your legislative agenda packet at the same time, but to try to break them up and give you a chance to consider them, ask questions, and give us a chance to bring you answers in a follow-up meeting if needed. So this is part 1. The goal was for you to have a chance to review those items. I've asked staff and/or representatives to be here to help you recognize what the package consists of, if you have questions on those. And then on the October 6th meeting, we'll take a look at a few more items to make sure that you have had a chance to express your support and/or questions about those. And then on October 20th, we will have compiled from both of those meetings what is your proposed legislative agenda packet for adoption that will go to the TJPDC as a part of the regional packaging that they do on behalf of all of the regions in the area to follow once those items go forward for consideration by the General Assembly.
Yeah, it was something that came up today.
I thought we had like a subcommittee that worked on it.
You do.
Natalie and I are the subcommittee.
Right, so we talked about this with
We've been meeting
them.
regularly, haven't we?
Because there's a lot here.
Twice a month
and,
before every meeting.
You know, there's a lot. I guess the Planning Commission one, it went on and on and on, which is, I'm not criticizing, I think it's great, but it's a lot, and I don't know that I feel
Right, so what?
qualified to even sort of separate the wheat from the chaff.
Sure, so ultimately, if you've read through it and if you don't have questions, that's great. If you do have questions, we can get answers for you on those questions. If there's heartburn about any items, that's really what we're looking for, to identify anything that may not necessarily feel okay to a majority of you. And again, we have representatives here that can speak to the various conversations in regards to that work if you so choose. But ideally, that's what we were looking to do this evening.
Yeah, I'm going to have to spend more time with it.
Well, the first question I
Just
would have, and Ms. Ritterwald is still here, so she's given us a 3 or 4 page list of things pertaining to sustainability. We are always told by the legislative folks, give us 1 page. And I don't mean one, and they don't mean one page from each city department, but one page from the city. Can you tell us the top three, top
I
five?
can tell you one thing, those 4 pages consist of 1 page of sustainability suggestions and 3 pages of notes related to them that got put
Okay.
in that packet together. So really, if you only look at page 1, that's the summary list.
Okay.
The other one was an attempt at capturing, like, are these issues that have been captured in previous bills in previous sessions? So it's really
So-
1 page.
The one page is 10 separate items. How, if we're going to try to winnow things down for the benefit of our legislators, what are the top, say, 3 or so from Office of Sustainability?
How we've talked about, we did have a little meeting about this and how we wanted to present it to our state reps. And because we have been asked to provide a single page of the top priorities, we want to do like a page 1 that's the number 1s, a page 2 that's the number 2s, where it's like, if you have the chance, support these, and then the page 3 of like, also keep these in mind. And so kind of what's on your page 1 that we can share with the other groups.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to take these and maybe flag the top 3.
That would be
I think
great.
that clearly, one of the things to keep in mind is that energy prices are going up. And so legislative priorities related to expanding distributed energy, meaning solar all over the place in different ways in which the utility develops their long-term energy planning in a way that is transparent and that prioritizes known strategies like energy efficiency and battery storage to the maximum extent possible before jumping to new generation. I think those are the types of things that I would flag, but I'd like to go back and like highlight for you the top ones, and I can put it like a second tier. And some of this was more, for your awareness, for example, supporting our continued participation in RGGI is not going to be something that the General Assembly is going to take up, but if you ask me about a priority, that's a policy priority to be aware of.
So that particular one was actually a question that I had in your previous presentation, but wanted to say for this, since it was one of the legislative items, is what is the steps to get us back in? What does that look like? Is it, assuming a new administration that's favorable?
I think it's going to
something
take
like
an administrative, it's either going to be litigated, which is actively being litigated, or it will take a direction from a new administration.
And is it,
And probably an amendment to the budget.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right,
But
so
that
we'll-
seems like the sort of thing that's so important that, I mean, we should definitely include it, but I would think that almost anyone doing activism in this space it's like at the top of their list, so.
Yeah.
And we've expressed support on that item already.
Right, and we're actually actively working on an opportunity to participate in that litigation process, reiterating what we did about 18 months ago,
Yeah.
sort of restating the reasons why there's local harm that could be realized by the loss of this revenue source for different kinds of programs.
Yeah. It was done for political reasons, not financial reasons. So,
So I will capture the prioritization, and that will be what we will start with looking at in the next meeting. That's what I was looking for.
Is that for each of these 3 pieces?
I'm going to ask Todd if he wants to come. And can you speak to your understanding
Thanks,
of the
President.
Human Rights Commission and their list, if you can identify potentially prioritization?
Thanks, yeah. Good evening, Todd Niemeyer with the Human Rights Commission. So their list is fairly long as well. I don't want to speak for them to say which of these would be their priority, but again, we could bring this back. They have a regular meeting this Thursday, so we can bring that request to them. I prefer them to articulate what our priorities are, and then, again, if it's like a top 3, top 5, if that works for you, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would be helpful, just sort of thinking about this, if you know, for example, that there's a certain bill that is going to be dealing with that. We could say to Delegate Carlson, keep an eye out for Delegate so-and-so's bill number 417 that is going to be touching on this issue, or something like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. In looking at Crystal's notes, actually, I was impressed. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, that's a really good idea. So we'll be using that.
Good.
And we can do that research for you if that would
Great.
be helpful on the top 5. Is that what you're
3 to 5, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
If you get the 3 and you say, we got to have 4,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay,
You know.
fair.
Can I just add though, like the bill references that I put in our section, that's from the past. There are no bills with numbers and sponsors yet. We're a little bit early in that game, but we can certainly, if council includes certain items in your packet, then we can also help track when those bills
Yeah.
start growing legs.
Right, when they get reintroduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, one, I don't know quite how to put this, and I don't want to cause offense. I have to be careful what I say, I guess, but what's in the Human Resources packet, Human Resources Commission, I mean, I think all these are lovely things. I would be interested, before I mean, you and Natalie, I guess, are kind of sift this out, but I'd be interested in what perhaps, I mean, Michael's a subject matter expert on a lot of these things. I'd be interested in what Deputy City Manager Marshall would have to say. So, for example, I wonder if some of these things are just sort of aspirational notions. Not that there's anything wrong with having aspirations. The one it says here, require that each county and city in Virginia maintain a public overnight homeless shelter or fund a private equivalent. I mean, that would be lovely, because we're doing this, I have a sense, for neighboring counties and communities, the work that we're doing here. But does that have any hope of being passed? I mean, I'm not sure the line between, like, this is our aspiration of things that we all think would be good versus what is something specific that we should put time and effort towards. There seem to be a number of things in that list. And again, I think Michael and Ashley would be good to just sort of scan over that and say, what do you all think are really, I won't say low-hanging fruit, but obtainable? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm certainly not the only voice that matters, but I think.
Well, we've already gotten really good input, and I think your point about asking the Human Rights Commission, what are the top 5 of this?
I do know, having read through it, that there are some of the Human Rights Commission's recommendations do relate to existing legislation that has gone through several years of subcommittees and committees and have broad statewide coalitions. And there are others which have no legislation attached to them with no legislative history. So there definitely is some that potentially I think really could get passed this year, including like the 5,000 family funds or first right of refusal. But for example, the homeless shelter one you mentioned, I mean, I think we could all feel confident saying there's no chance that passes this year. Not that it couldn't be an aspiration long-term, but there's certainly no legislation, this year.
I think just going back to the reference that Councilor Oshrin made, is that we're going to have the first page would be the top priorities. The second page would be more of positions that this body would like to express it wants to take. And then we'll have more of a packet for other things. I think the prioritization that can come from each of these sets is really the place to start. And then if you all have just a good, strong feeling about, let's not leave that out, we can add it to the packet. It's more about placement within the packet that I think we should just focus on.
I agree. I think the legislative history is going to be useful, so we know how close did we get to this last time, or just kind of for our benefit. So
the bill references would probably be helpful, just because our delegation then with their staff could probably find those old bills and catch up on them if it's something that they're not familiar with. So I do think that's a good point, Todd, for lifting Crystal's effort, and I think we can try to do that going forward for everybody else.
And who's going to work on the Planning Commission's list? Is that something that...
Mr. Duranzio is here and can speak to any prioritization, I would think, or at least recognize that you would take it back to the Planning Commission for them to consider doing something like that.
Sure. I can speak to a couple of these just briefly. Phil Veronzio for the Planning Commission. So we provided you with a, very quick list of 15 things we'd like. But to sort of run through them, I've just sort of been categorizing them as you've been speaking here. And the first 4 are really one, in that they are all dealing with essentially the same matter, which is nits in zoning practice. Number 1, actually, city attorney has asked to own, which has to do with the relationship between transportation planning and rezoning and the requirements thereof. Frankly, Lyle and James and I thought about that last year and realized we didn't really want to spotlight that without having a chief legal officer in place to actually drive that bus, considering other matters that are out there. So that's back on. Then the 2, 3, and 4 are all about expediting of development reviews and clarifications. Number 2, for example, has a direct on point for this evening, which was to actually get the authority to delegate special exception permits to the Planning Commission and let people appeal to council, so that we're not reinventing the wheel 3 times. A special exception permit can be granted by, or if it's denied, then they can appeal to council. For example, one of them has to do with defining hardship standards and defining and having local delegation of authority to things like what is harm in making a zoning change. So they're all sort of combined together. There are a couple of things that we recycled from last year having to do with the 1-cent tax for schools, yet again. And also Sally Hudson put forth a bifurcation of land and improvements and being able to tax them at different rates.
It's the land value tax legislation.
Which is an affordable housing benefit there. And those are sort of the priorities there. And then the rest of them are we support, which are things that we think the state should be doing and taking a look at. Things like, let's get some sense and modernize what fire equipment really needs in terms of turning corners, because that's all over the place. Let's look at unifying covenants and restrictions and seeing what's really out there buried in courthouses and how to get some clarity on how they apply and don't. And of course, statewide statewide permitting for accessory dwelling units, but we already do that. So, if the rest of the state doesn't want to do it, they don't want to do it. And then the last one is really down into the weeds on a technical matter, and I'm happy to speak to you all individually on that. It's my own personal hobby horse about a rule on subordinate mortgages that has some pretty strong affordable housing inferences. But we can come back to you with, here's category A, here's category B, here's category C. Any thoughts on any of that?
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you.
So we'll capture the prioritizations for the next meeting, and as Mr. Duranzio mentioned, Mr. Maddox has one, maybe more than one item? Two items. I put out a request to staff as a reminder if there are any others that, are formulated by our own experiences in doing the work, so that we'll be able to capture that as well. So we can start the next version of this looking at the 3 packets that we have in the prioritization and anything new, with the goal of being able to have you adopt something, have something ready for adoption consideration on the 20th.
And I would just offer, I definitely agree with prioritization. And I would just offer, I think we may have the most impact if, as best as we can, we try to focus our prioritization on legislation that is not going to be sponsored except by our local representatives. I think our local representatives will probably be with us on everything that is sponsored by other members of the General Assembly. That's where we've had the most impact in the past with inclusionary zoning. We've got state law changed on PCOB powers, local official remuneration, other issues. So I just offer that, as well as beyond legislation, if there's anything we have in terms of dollar amounts for specific investments in an initiative in the community, or a partner, because we are fortunate enough to have our state senator be on the Appropriations Committee and is directly involved in the negotiations for creating the budget. So I think beyond legislation, a dollar amount for something may get us somewhere too.
So Mike, I don't know if I understood the first part of your comments where you said that the legislation that only our delegation can support. What, can you explain what you mean by that again?
So, like, some of the legislation, like, we'd probably be more impactful if we don't just prioritize based on the legislation we like the most. Like, there's environmental regulation that's going to be sponsored from a House of Delegates member in Northern Virginia. Every Democrat's going to vote for it.
Mhm.
Or any of these things not going to be in front of the General Assembly unless we get Delegate Coulson or State Senator Deeds to
Oh, I see.
sponsor it themselves.
So something is like make page 1 kind of priorities that we can only be the ones that carry, and then page 2 is like, yeah, we're going to support these when that
Right.
person
Yeah,
recommends them.
I got, yeah.
And we can talk about that more because we are planning to set up a meeting with them to review those kinds of things.
And if we have like a dollar amount and maybe it's for a very ambitious, unified shelter system, and if we come with a dollar amount for that, I think, you know, Senator Deeds can be a tremendous help there.
As direction given on Friday.
I've got a question for Mr. Dranzio. And this might be something I could find if I went back and watched a planning commission meeting, but since you're here, was there any discussion about continued support for a single stair amendment?
Yes. It's actually in there. And actually Lyle carries the ball for that. He is neck deep in it. He is driving the state rewrite of the code to permit that and to look at those guidance. So yes, that is, we do have that, but we're a little farther down the road than requesting its possibility. I can get Lyle to connect with you. He's way deep in the weeds on that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion on that? I'll now see if anyone wants to put on there.
It was the Planning Commission that finally, the members of the public who were left here, they finally had to check out.
You did it. So, yeah.
Chased everybody away.
Yes. Any other matters from the public? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please. Are we voting?
Yes.
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 Thank you all.